Sup, YouTubers? I had unlisted some live streams, and I want to apologize to Ian because he had played lovely piano on it, and I unlisted it, but I probably am going to put it back up again because here's the thing. I do a lot of researching because I care about people as a whole, you know? I care about the future of this country, care about the environment, and I care about a lot of things. Um, I'm not a racist person. I don't look at the color of you know someone that some horrible you know event is happening to and think, oh yeah, but they're this color, so that makes a difference. That matters. I think that the fact is that if something turns my stomach. Uh, so while I was, going through some things, I was looking at the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, and I gotta wonder about that. I don't think I've ever. I think that was a travesty of justice right there. I can't believe that person got acquitted. And not only that, he got so much support that it was surprising to me. I mean, evidently, this Kyle Rittenhouse has some very violent behavior. And I can't even comprehend that the as it appears that the people that he had shot, they're white and Jewish. So the Nazis, the whatever, the anti-Semites and the one, wearing all their swastikas were like rejoicing in that. I don't understand, like, where was the outrage for that? Um, that person evidently got away with, uh, in his mind, resolving issues with, a gun and killing people. And um, the person that they were protesting about, Jacob Black, or Blake. I'm sorry, Jacob Blake. Jacob Blake. I had their name wrong. Apparently had like some priors, and he did have a knife. He himself said he was not unarmed. That he was armed, and I mean, he even said that he felt that he was in the wrong himself for that whole thing, and that the riots were um, something that he didn't really, he didn't agree with. I had come up with a Daniel Schaefer who was shot begging for his life by a white police officer who was actually rehired so he could get his pension benefits. Uh, he was. There was another one, Hunter Britton. I believe that was in Arkansas. He was shot by a white police officer in a traffic stop. He That officer was never even charged with anything. He was fired um, for turning his body cam off. As soon as he had made the traffic stop, he turned the body cam off. This was a 17-year-old kid, unarmed. He shot, white. There was a 6-year-old, Christopher Marsdale, I think, was in Louisiana, and the two black officers pulled over his father. His father had his hands up in the air. The 6-year-old autistic child, both white, were, you know, the 6-year-old autistic child was shot to death. Father had his hands up in the air out the window, he was unarmed. One of the actually both of the officers had priors of, they were both black, had priors of police brutality, aggravated rape. One of them had been making advances towards the man's wife weeks before. One of them is out now. He only served 21 months. I am in shock that there is so much unrest going on. But yet, when I oops, my batteries. I need to charge. When I, addressed the subject, it became as if I was racist. But I'm not racist. I'm not saying that it's not a tragedy when somebody who is unarmed is killed by the police. I'm saying that it's a tragedy that it's not a tragedy just as it is, without any color being put in front of either or, the police officer or the person who had passed away. Why is it not a tragedy until the race is specified? I think that all those families probably mourn just as much as the other. I think a lot of times the result for the perpetrators are are the same. Which is very minimal. The punishment is minimal. They're treated like possibly the fact that one of the officers in the shooting of the 6-year-old had made previous advances towards this man's wife, both of them had priors of being, for brutality. The thing with that case, the judge ordered a gag order so that the family and anybody involved could make no statement to the media. So things like that, we don't hear about them, right? We don't hear about it. Why would the family? I mean, I get it that they could use, oh, well, we don't want any family, no statements made, to the media. It could, hinder the trial, things like that. But I could understand that kind of theory, but I don't hear it often in as many cases as I would think that that would happen. Um, I think a lot of cases um, are comfortable. I mean, comfortable. I'm sorry. A lot of cases are handled incorrectly. Sorry. I think that anytime somebody gets pulled over for a traffic stop and has to be screamed at with guns pointed at them is almost paralyzing, like petrified, petrified. And even as a white person, I'm petrified of cops, especially if they were screaming at me and like if they had a mistaken identity and where, I mean, how many times have we seen like where a parent, their child goes missing, and while the parent is probably, in my mind, this is how I picture it, desperately, like wanting to be everywhere at once to search for their missing child, right? Wanting to be everywhere at once and already beating yourself up thinking, oh my God, did I take my eyes out of, anything at all? And how many times has that parent ended up in, uh, like in questioning, interrogating, for sometimes 40 hours while, in the meantime, their whole entire world is crumbling and their child is missing and people will maybe just stop, searching during that time because they're thinking, oh, well, the police are saying that it's a parent. I mean, there's so many injustices. There really is. I think that being able to, you know, I think that empathy and, um, sorrow for somebody else is almost like a natural reaction, just like, laughing is and crying is. Hi, Ian. I know I'll have to unprivate that video. I privated it because not to do with your piano playing. I loved it and appreciated it, and it occurred to me I would love to overcome our misunderstanding, Day Day, because at the end of the day, we had some beautiful talk, and Ian and Day Day, you're both beautiful people, um, and it bothered me to have to privatize that video because Ian had played this wonderful song, and we were also moved that, we had such, unity here, and it fell apart because of two words, black and white. And before that, there was no thought of what color any of us were. Day Day and I, we would speak on the phone for so long and talk about all kinds of things that were not, that were any topic whatsoever. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to do that. That were, every topic. I mean, I'm so grateful to have met each other and and become friends. That I think is a shame if division divides something that was so, for myself, speaking for myself, necessary for me to, here comes my cat, of course, because I went live. God knows, can't go live without Tucker bothering me. Um, and I don't blame it on him because he's a black cat. No, I'm just kidding. That's just a joke. My cat is black and white. He's just a jerk. Um, I just think that that was such a, lovely friendship that it certainly would suck to. Did the link come up? I'm just curious because I did drop it. I'm curious. Please, Tucker, don't do this. Please, Tucker, stop. Oh, Tucker could give me it is great to meet and have a chat. And um, did the link drop though? Did my link come up? Okay, Tucker, please, please, Tucker, please, Tucker. Right, it is. It's almost like a conference call, kind of. Sometimes, uh, it's just so easy to end up having such great conversations and for hours. I mean, Day and I, and me and other people, that from my live streams that I have spoken to on the phone, end up speaking for hours upon hours about beautiful, lovely subjects, that I would just hate to have that gone. Hi, Day Day.
Can you hear me?
Hi. Hi. My cat is such a jerk. Oh my God.
Can you
You sound low.
Okay. Uh,
Say something. Okay, now you sound louder. Say something.
okay. Can you hear me
Yes,
now?
perfect, perfect, perfect. How you doing?
Oh, not bad, not bad. So I
Yeah.
think with in lieu of what we were talking about yesterday, and with today with the Arbery case, and the verdict that came out of that, I think that we see where um color was more or less blind in that respect. The justice system worked today. I think that I think there were like out of the jurors, how many jurors are there normally? 12 jurors, I think. So 11 of them were white, and one of them was black, and the victim was black, and the defendants were white. And I think that the white, based on the evidence that was presented and how the law is defined, that they made the correct decision. And if it were the other way around, I think that it would be the same. I think if you had uh, 11 black jurors and one white, I would hope that justice would be served the same way. Um,
I would hope so too. Sometimes I wish we could have like a Twilight Zone little episode sometimes so we could see, because um, I mean, like that Kyle Rittenhouse trial, that really bothers me that he got away with that.
the Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but and see, that's the problem with a lot of things. It's how the law is kind of worded, and that came down to, and I think everybody realizes that he should not have showed up there with a gun. Anytime you are able, with your pre-thought, to analyze a situation and know that you probably shouldn't. If it was so dangerous that you thought that you had to take a gun, okay, then you probably shouldn't have showed up. And he uses the excuse that he was there, that he loved his community so much that he was there trying to protect others' property. Okay, just that's not that. Just to me,
I
was
heard that he didn't even live in that community.
oh, okay, all right. Well, from what he said, D told Tucker Carlson, um, he was there because he loved his community. He was trying to protect, the property there, the commercial properties. That just didn't make sense. If he thought that that was a issue or a problem, he probably should have handed that responsibility over to the proper authorities, which they were there. Okay, they did a poor job on controlling things, but uh, they were there. So, but suffice it to say, I think that it worked, and I think that our discussion,
That's a
yes,
good point, though, what you said about if you think that a situation is so dangerous that you need to bring, that you have to arm yourself, then you probably shouldn't go.
yeah, yeah, but him being, I don't know if his age is much of an excuse for not thinking better. Maybe it was, but unfortunately, two people are deceased now because of that, and one is permanently disabled because of that. So
Right.
and if you talk to
Hi,
those.
secret society. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt. I just
Hey,
want to say
no, no
hi.
problem, no problem, no problem. Hey, Secret Society. Yeah, and if you talk to the victims people, I think his name was Cushman or something, or whatever his name was. I'm sure that verdict wasn't to their satisfaction because those guys weren't armed, and so the law stated that he had the right to defend himself, even though he came armed and shouldn't have came armed. So that's
Really? So they said he had the right to defend himself, like, even though they were unarmed and he brought the gun. So, like, more or less, to
yeah,
me, it would seem like he was there to, and if what I had saw that he didn't live there was correct, then that is so, I mean, I can't comprehend that what they were saying was how easy it was for him to be able to buy that. Was it the AR-15?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that right there in itself is,
And
really
and I
shocking.
didn't want to give our listeners and the audience the impression yesterday that I didn't care about all sides, or that I was just biased towards uh, blacks and the inefficiencies in the law, or the the parity level that wasn't correct. I I'm a person that tries to look at things without the restrictions of color, and sometimes that becomes muddied, sometimes that becomes unclear. You asked the question, I think, yesterday concerning and help me get it right about why is there like a black awards show, and why is it termed that way, deemed that way. Well, I think that the answer, and it kind of lies within the institutionalized beginnings of that, where for so long, even though what's her face, Butterfly McQueen, won years ago for supporting actress, there were so many years that I think that people felt especially a group of people, in this case, black folks, okay, because we were always only portrayed in certain roles within the movie industry, and but then when we were capable and showed that capability of being versatile within our within that artistry, then a lot of times we still weren't recognized, and weren't recognized until I think Sidney Poitier won twice. I think he won for Lilies of the Field and something else. But for so
To
long,
Stir with Love or something, maybe to Stir with
uh,
Love.
yeah, yeah. Well, no, it wasn't for Sir with Love. It was Lilies of the Field, and I forgot the other one, but it was
Oh, was it Heat of the Night?
it might, yeah, I
Wasn't
think
he in that Heat of the Night?
I think it might have been in the heat of the night. But there was always, just kind of just I don't know, maybe seems like with a lot of like the music award shows and all of that stuff. And it's not just blacks that have their own awards. You got now you have the I think the Latin Grammys,
Oh,
okay?
really?
You
Mhm.
have
And
that.
here's the thing, though, on the flip side, there's a lot of Hollywood actresses, the women actresses who at one point, at some point in their life as they age, are deemed like basically not necessary. So the roles that they'll get are stereotypical as the older lady, the mother, where Richard Gere or somebody will still get roles as, you know, with the
Yeah.
young woman and all that. So it
And
happens.
that can come down to other factors too, like who's writing for who, and that type of thing. Like as far as Ebony and Essence and those magazines were really instrumental in bringing forth information and communication that was sometimes lacking and unfair, with or just non-existent, okay, with other mainstream media journalistic type things. So it was good that for both sides, for Ebony to come out and report about black scientists and engineers and stuff like that, for not only the black community but for other communities, to see that it just wasn't about what the media was reporting, that was you typically negative stuffs like
And
pimps.
therein lies the problem, though, really, is the media because,
Yeah, yeah, the media
they
has a
will
lot.
just put what they want, basically, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, the media has a lot to do with that in creating that image. So that's what Ebony and Jet did, was create a positive image that actually was instrumental in then, people, blacks and other minorities, making that transition into mainstream uh journalistic type things. It's arguable, like who's the top model back in like Beverly Johnson and
Oh, Iman,
Iman.
Iman.
They first
Mm.
started out getting their exposure in magazines like Essence magazine and Ebony magazine and that type of thing, and the reporting was always positive. So that helped in that transition. And now you see, used to, you would never see like 17 magazine. You would never see any black girls in 17 magazine, or wouldn't see any black people in like Better Homes and Gardens and media stuff like that,
I didn't
publication.
really see any people in Better Homes and Gardens, just furniture. Ian says, I thought people were just people, like a vehicle, all different kinds, but same on the inside.
you know, and,
And yeah,
and in a perfect world, Ian, we would just love that. I think everybody would love that in a perfect world. But things just aren't that way.
but
And
I feel like even like, did you know that video that I sent you from Uganda? Did you watch that?
no, but I just didn't have time to get into it
uh,
before.
well, the woman, she's a black woman and she's wearing shorts and she's going to some kind of protest or something in Uganda. And um, the men, it was about, basically it was all black people, and the black men were saying, things to her. So she went to a police officer and he said, yeah, but you're wearing shorts. Isn't that what you wanted? And then it shows her being like thrown down and undressed, and then, when I came across that, even up to, like as recent as very recent that
He was
Ethiopian
raped.
children
He was
are still
raped.
starving.
Was
Huh?
he raped or something? Or
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
and about the rape of the women over there. Is consistent. They're still doing going through that shit with oh, you're wearing shorts. Isn't that what you wanted?
yeah.
I feel like in many places and many countries, there's a lot of things going on that are so far. As a whole, you have to think that we are basically pretty good people as a whole. Here in America, all of us. You know,
Yeah.
and at least we're not like throwing women down on the streets and raping them and it being and at least that whole well you were wearing that has kind of been you know become
Well,
old.
even though some of that goes on, I mean, I've seen online some Kensington stories out of Kensington concerning that. That's
Oh
still
really? See, I don't really watch that. Like what do you mean, like when they'll fall asleep on high on drugs
well,
and
I mean, that's what's kind of the nature of rape anyway. Is somebody being snatched out somewhere and
like,
and
let's look at Kensington though, right? I mean, I can't even get over that they allow that the police kind of, that the state, that they just allowed that to happen basically to a society. And that's, at the end of the day, I think it's like he who has more money always wins. Like, I can't believe that Kyle Rittenhouse got all that support in money, like in millions of dollars.
yeah, and he's getting support from, which kind of bothers me. What does no, not kind of too. It does bother me from like they want to the guy, couple people in Congress want to make him out to be make him a page.
Yeah, yes, and name a day, a federal holiday after him.
Oh, are you serious? I didn't hear that.
Yes.
Wow, that's just bad. And Tucker Carlson doing an interview with him and calling him a hero, and it's just that's
What
just
bothers me is what you pointed out to me about that case is that those people that he killed were Jewish.
well, at least one of them was, yeah,
Well,
yeah, one of
yeah,
them,
and they said
you
they
know,
do believe that the other one was because I did research it.
and
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 that
based on
bothers me.
yeah, and me too, because you kind of wonder, that's where you want to stay colorblind about it. But what gets me is that, and I don't know, I can't say that because he was Jewish that, if he were anything other than either Jewish or minority, that case would he had been charged on lesser charge. He should have
Well, no,
been
he
charged.
wasn't Jewish. Kyle Rittenhouse,
Well,
the
no, but the
people that
guy
he
that got
killed.
killed was Jewish, and that's
Yeah.
what I'm wondering if it was anybody, if it was a mainstream, say your typical Caucasian, Anglo-Saxon or whatnot, would he had been charged on a lesser charge? He should have been charged on the reckless endangerment charge.
He
Why
should have
that
been
was
charged. I
never
mean, he was
brought
writing stuff
forward?
in Facebook. He was doing things, and like he's just a violent person who was with those Proud Boys or whatever. Those
Yeah, yeah.
the
And
yeah
and
that.
and I think that I heard that he actually supports Black Lives Matter. I don't know that to be true. If that were the case, I'm not sure why he brought a gun. If you wanted to just come and be a part of a Black Lives Matter protest, then why would you bring a gun there and say you're protecting property? Wouldn't you come
And
there?
that is a good point. I mean, that's a good point. Why would none of those, people, like you said, Tucker Carlson, like he was in an interview with him and he said he supported Black Lives Matter. And I've seen that many times, and when they're talking about him saying that he supports Black Lives Matter. But you would think that at least one of those journalists or Tucker Carlson would say what you just said.
Yeah.
If he supported Black Lives Matter, then why was he there, with an
Yeah.
assault rifle?
And I think that you intimate your thoughts concerning, like, with the Ethiopian starvation and that type of thing. Why don't Black Lives Matter? Uh, why isn't that a concern of that? And I think that those type of issues are a concern. It's tough when you're so many miles away and you're fighting your own fight. But I think that it was the movement of Black Americans in the early '80s that really uh, uh, assisted in helping the whole South African apartheid and the pressure that was put on the South African government for releasing Mandela, and subsequently Mandela became the president. So I think that it can be effective in more of a global way. Okay, that, like, remember when the Black Lives Matter thing, all that set off. Uh, uh,
I agree with you that they made a difference. Because I have been, like I said, I've always been, well, not always, but like researching the officer involved shooting, and the qualified immunity doctrine. And I'll tell you what, I do agree that if it wasn't for the Black Lives Matter movement making, in the Justine Diamond case in Minneapolis, like I don't think that there was rioting going on there for Justine Diamond, but I will say that there has been cases where their rioting has led to convictions of, police officers.
yeah.
That was a big part of my issue with the whole
And I don't
officer
know
involved shooting.
what do you think about the qualified immunity? I think it's got a lot of holes in it because, like you
I think
said,
it's disgusting.
Colorado and New Mexico and Connecticut, and I think that it's growing as far as them getting rid of the qualified immunity. Um, and
Did
I
that surprise you though when you finally did research it and look at it? Did it surprise you that there was a doctrine protecting them? It did
uh,
me.
No, because I think that they, police organizations and unions and stuff are big on protecting themselves in a
Right,
certain manner, and that's almost putting that qualified immunity puts them basically above the law, because
right. Didn't that? I mean, I get that maybe it might not surprise you because of you would expect that, but it surprised me because I, didn't realize that they were basically, like you said, above the law. Like, so it doesn't even matter if, they're having a good day or a bad day. If they don't like somebody, they could just take it out on somebody and, say whatever they want, and they're protected by the qualified.
Ian just posed the question. He says, "Was it better in the '50s, '60s, '70s compared to now?" I think it's better in many ways. I think that there's still a lot of work to be done. Policing, um, maybe a little less brutal, but with policing, I think that you're always going to have some issues and some problems. But I think it's the things like defunding the police, where that brings a certain heightened awareness to what's going on with policing. I don't think
But
anybody
did
wants
you
to
read
get.
in that qualified immunity doctrine how they say they don't train them to do certain things, to use less force and this and that so that they can
which
use
is
that
which
as
is
their
which
excuse?
is really surprising because most metropolitan area police forces have, for the last 30 years, have had comprehensive training programs.
Isn't that
And
funny? Coming out of our taxes to train them, and yet with that qualified immunity doctrine, when you see that and you read it, you realize that wait a minute, if they train them, then they can't use that as their excuse. And
and
basically,
just
it
like
says it.
just like the one thing that you just sent me concerning, with the body cam, the guy, who got fired there, for killing the 17-year-old kid.
That
He turned his body
that
cam
17.
on after, or later than he should have, and he was trained properly on when to, and that's subsequently why he was fired.
Only
But
fired though, not charged with anything.
yeah, I know. And
Yeah,
that's a problem, okay, too, on
yeah,
how the law, and the liability all within that law, is a problem. So,
yeah. Only fired basically because with the body cam off, there was no proof, and they had taken
yeah,
the one witness that was with him, the 16-year-old kid, and I guess put him, in the police cruiser for 3 hours. And, so basically the only thing they could get him on was turning off his body cam. So that makes me wonder if that cop didn't already have plans to do something to him.
yeah, yeah. And I
Yeah.
think so much, a lot of the, and still trying to address Ian's points about, where things get better. I think so much of it, a lot of it comes down to the individual too, because, like, most police departments have sufficient, I think, enough training, but a lot of times you get those individuals, you got to kind of look at the individuals who make up the being the cops anyway, kind of the disposition of this, in relationship to the job, which is high stress. A lot of times they'll get in situations, even with their training, that, that becomes questionable. So, it's a
When
lot
I
of
was
things
doing a lot of the
involved.
research,
But I think
when I was
all
doing a
in
lot of the
all,
research, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, I think all in all, I think things have got slowly better, and certainly there's more diversity on police forces now, and more
I
police.
think with the media and stuff, that might have made things get worse because they're all controlled by like one person owning them. Like they're monopolized now by where before, um, I remember that stories had to be actually, true before they would print them. And we had the few TV channels and the different news networks. It wasn't like all with the technology, with social media now. It
Yeah.
seems like God knows they could be even like, um, you know, fix photoshopping things and telling us, and we don't even know. I mean, it's like, you know, I feel like when you did watch the Tony Timpa though, right? You watched that.
Yes, I did.
What did you think about that?
Well, it's just,
Disturbing, right?
yeah, it is. And
The way they
it
were laughing.
yeah. It's just, I don't know. There are a lot of issues and a lot of angles at things, and it's just,
But they never got any, like, they didn't get convicted, nothing,
no,
and they were
no. And
laughing,
when
laughing.
I said I don't give a damn, it was more about, not about justice, but about how we were at the time, how it related to what we were talking
But
about.
when you watch it, you see where my frustration comes from,
Yeah,
right? Because they were
yeah, yeah. I mean,
laughing. I couldn't believe it. The guy is
yeah.
like, you're killing me," and they're laughing at him.
Yeah, and and they were told about his situation, as far as, what issues he had with, like, the schizophrenia and things like that, and I don't know how they
And he
knew.
called them himself. And what kills me too is like that poor mother. Like she fought 3 years before that body cam footage came out,
Yeah,
and you know
I grew up
nothing
with
happened to him.
a guy, family, who the that was a similar situation. He was an ex-Vietnam vet. Okay, he would have been in his 80s now, but and this happened about 10 years ago, and he called because he thought there was a burglar outside. Okay, and then when he came to the door, he had a gun in his hand because he thought he was there to protect his own self, okay, and
Hmm.
mistook that and ended up killing him. So, and I'm not sure what came out of that,
What
So
state was that in?
that was in Seattle, and it was a training that they weren't aware. There's just so much of that. That's where I
That's
guess.
what they'll do. They'll not train them right, so they can use that as the excuse and get away with it. There was two other cases that I had done from March 2015 that were also veterans with PTSD.
Uh-huh.
Um, because of how they were feeling. Or one had actually, one his name was Brian Bapp, and this was in Oregon, and it was within the same month too. Actually, I could be wrong about the March 2015. It might have been a different month and year. I was focusing on that, and then I got distracted. But Brian
Hello,
Bapp,
Piano
he
Man. Say hello to
hi
Piano Man.
piano man, hi piano man. I'm sorry, I didn't notice you. Thank you for pointing that out, Dede. He was having PTSD. He had done 4 tours of Afghanistan, and so he called his, like his um, therapist, saying how he was feeling. He was feeling suicidal, and the therapist called 911. Well, the dispatcher puts it as, "Oh, he's aiming a gun out the window," but he wasn't. He had actually dismantled the gun, and so those cops got there within 7 minutes in like one of those, the Bearcats or whatever it is, with the turret on top with the sniper out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
And as soon as that guy opened his door, they shot him, killed him.
Wow,
It's a well-being call, and they killed him immediately.
wow, wow.
Um, and then there was another one that it's always strange to me that, for a well-being check, they're showing up with a tank and a bullhorn and a sniper coming out of the turret.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's 2 times. And then the last one, when I stopped doing the officer involved shootings, and I wasn't just looking for, where the cops were shooting the person. It was just telling the story.
Yeah.
And the last one, I couldn't take. It was Charles Landry, and he was LBGT or whatever it is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, he was mixed Filipino and something else, and he was a protest, like he was an activist against police brutality. And 2 weeks
Yeah.
prior, they had killed a legally blind black man and then planted a knife on him. And it was quite apparent that they had, this guy, he was visiting family in Oregon, and he went to the wrong house, and this cop killed him.
Oh my, yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it was so suspicious. It was horrible. So, this guy, Charles Landry, was, an activist, and he was against that. And so 2 weeks later, he goes to pick up his daughter from her middle school, and they shoot him right in front of his daughter, these two cops. And they're
Oh my
going,
goodness.
well, all the people in the comments are going, yeah, well, he's got time to chill out now in the morgue.
Mhm.
And I'm like, wow, that's horrible. You can hear his little girl going, Dad, Dad. And they point blank right to his temple, shoot him.
Mhm.
And these two cops, they towered over him. They had him, they said, oh, he was reaching for his gun. But I mean, they pretty much had this guy, you
Yeah.
know, in a hold. And so all the people are going, that serves him right for bringing a gun into a school. Well, if they looked at Oregon laws, it's not illegal to bring a gun into a
Yeah.
school. So they might want to check out their own laws of their own state because
Hey,
that's,
can we possibly bring Ian on? Maybe he can shed a little holiday spirit for us. I mean, I don't. This is your platform, your gig, but we've been talking about the whole
not
brutality of
person.
these things for a little bit. Then maybe
The
we
only
can.
reason why it's important to me is because when you had pointed out about those two men with the Kyle Rittenhouse and the, being Jewish,
Yeah.
and it bothers me that he got away. doing that, and I can't help but wonder if it was because he killed Jewish people, and the support and for him and the money that all of that is amazing to me that they don't.
And what goes on unspoken a lot of times and unreported is, every year I can guarantee you that a Jewish synagogue, thousands probably of Jewish synagogues get hit and defaced and vandalized and stuff every single year. I know it happens in Seattle at least 3 or 4 times a year.
Hi, Lone Wolf. It does, and it's disturbing to me that it's going unreported, just like you said. And I can't, like,
A lot of it's
find much
going, a lot of it's going reported, but just not much done about it.
notice. Yeah, I saw like an interview with. It wasn't an interview. It was when Farrakhan was at some Catholic church in Chicago, and he was saying, "We're gonna pick out the good Jews from the bad Jews and the satanic Jews." And there was like over 1,000 comments, and they were not um, supportive of Jews, at all. They were like, oh, he's right. He blah blah blah. We love. That's scary. It's as scary as it is, for you. If it was, like say you were seeing a person who was saying that about black, which I'm sure that it has happened, and then you see all this support for them. It's scary, right? It's a fear.
Yeah, it is. It is.
It is. It's a fear because you just you can't have to wonder how over 1,000 people are like, Hitler was right, this and that, and you're like, oh my God, regardless if they were Jewish, regardless of whatever color, how can, sympathy, like the human compassion part of people not come into play when you're thinking about the things that have been done to different, people in society? How does that compassion not naturally come into play?
Yeah, yeah. Well, a lot of it depends on how we was raised. Goes back to how folks was raised. It wasn't raised right.
I
Hello,
mean,
Lone
even
Wolf.
that Uganda thing where I, looked at, here you've got a crowd of loads of people, and it's the police that are stripping her, this woman, and in front of like crowds of people. I mean, I can't for the life of me think where not one of those men that were doing that had been raised that that is wrong, and it goes on so much, rape and this group mentality of where they think, oh, they don't say anything, then it won't happen to them.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the problem, like, because it does eventually happen. When it goes unchecked, it does happen to, everyone, like Kyle Rittenhouse. If he, you know, him being, declared like some kind of a hero and a vigilante. Weren't those people that he killed at the demonstration as well, like in support of Black Lives Matter?
yeah. And peacefully demonstrating. They were trying to stop him from. I'm not sure he was trying to stop somebody from getting beat up or something, or being attacked, or how that went down. People see him going down the street with a gun and try, misusing that, and they're trying to stop him and end up getting killed. So, you
Yeah,
know,
and so I don't understand, like, how can that not be so obvious that if you're in support of Black Lives Matter, then why wouldn't he be hand in hand with the protesters as opposed to shooting them,
yeah, yeah,
no
and
matter what color they were?
and most Black Lives Matter protests were peaceful. All the looting and stuff that wasn't represented of representative of Black Lives Matter, the true Black Lives Matter protester. And Black Lives Matter worked in a lot of ways because there was so much diversity. Matter of fact, when most Black Lives Matter, there were more non-blacks there than actual blacks there, so, and that's why the civil rights movement was so effective, because it wasn't just blacks, it was a diversity of people.
I always wonder why, when I will see, like, I don't know, like they support each other more.
And Black Lives Matter is about uh, everybody utilizes it, because it's just not about so-called black issues. In black issues are everybody issues: housing, police brutality. Black people aren't the only ones that get brutalized by cops. There's a
They're
lot of
not, and that's why I feel like, in a way, the naming of it is what makes people who are in agreement with it feel, like it's only for, black people. And I know myself that I had a black girlfriend who, when
that's
I
where
was telling
that's
her,
where the media comes in and sabotages all of that, because most Black Lives Matter rallies, and the objective is clear about things, and they're not saying black folks this, black folks that. They're saying things like, well, police brutality and unfair justice and things that affect everybody. It's the media, like Fox News, that paints it as being this one-sided, biased entity, and it's not.
thank you for stopping in, Lone Wolf. We appreciate your support. Thank you. You
Is
still haven't
Ian
talked
still
to me?
around?
Yes, he is. I did drop the link, but, well, I don't know. I haven't seen him in a little bit, but
Okay.
probably is still here.
I haven't
I did
seen you
drop
on
the
the
link.
phone. It's so
Uh,
beautiful, man. Blue sky, and the waves are smooth, cold, but
she
beautiful.
lives in Ireland.
Oh, she's in Ireland.
She's in
Wow, you got
Ireland.
people tapping in from Australia and Ireland, and you've gone global, huh?
Yeah, right. That's what I like about YouTube, I will say, is that, it does open up, ways to,
Yeah, yeah.
talk to everybody, basically.
And
Uh,
Black Lives Matter was effective in like places like London, and and even if it wasn't considered Black Lives Matter, people were beginning to it just really initiated other protests for other foreign cities that were having problems with their local governments or national governments, or things like that. So uh overall, I think that the movement was pretty good, and still is pretty good and effective. So we'll see. Where that goes. Is it sabotaged a lot of times by behavior on the local level, by those
it could be
people?
other people as well, because, like, what I like, I was saying, I had a girlfriend who was black, and she was married to a white guy. And then when the whole Black Lives Matter thing came, to play, I would talk to her on Facebook. We would talk and everything. And when I was relaying to her my story of when I would get chased home and called a gollywog and a half caste when I lived in England, so I, as a white person, could, in, some aspects, relate to, you know, racism. Even though I'm not black, I still was treated as if I was black. And so if I was black and chased home as a guy and called those names, racist names, it still would affect me, right?
Yeah.
But she said, oh, don't ride on our coattails and stop talking to me.
Huh. Interesting.
So yeah, so I think, it is like certain individuals who will take things as an opportunity to start looting, like you said, and that doesn't have to do with the Black Lives Matter. That's just people, they take this opportunity of unrest to, I mean, like in a different, different, different way to go. But I grew up where I wasn't raised racist. Like I told you, my mother, her boyfriend, growing up through life, he was a black guy, and I did get called, your mother is a N lover, things like that. But I always liked Lou. I always liked Lou. Never had a problem with him.
Yeah.
Um, so I wasn't raised to dislike or to be racist or anything like
And I'm
that.
assuming because he was in a interracial relationship with your mom that he was probably a fairly liberal. Both your mom and him were fairly liberal minded. You have to be, especially back when they were probably together, which you're talking about the 70s. You had to be thick skinned, and you had to be liberal mind to engage in that type of a relationship.
Yeah, it was like the late 70s, early 80s, around that time.
But
Yeah.
Europe has a little bit more of an open racial, and I don't
It
want to
wasn't
be.
in England, it was here.
Okay, okay, okay.
It
All
was
right.
here. But it was in England when I was like 6 years old in the mid 70s when I was being called gollywog and half caste.
Oh,
And,
okay.
which is surprising to me because um, I just never like, that was the only, I don't, growing up, I went, to a mixed school. I never had any problem. Um, you know, it doesn't, it wasn't, I don't know if it's like maybe the major cities have more of it. I just never, some places aren't racist. Some places are like,
And
mixed.
sometimes racism comes in the form of your own kind. I not to say that I've never experienced racism from outside of my race, but I've experienced more biasness within my own race than I have outside. Okay, so I can't ever remember being called the N word to my face by anybody other than someone who looked like me. So
Does
uh,
that bother you? Like, because I see it as prevalent in songs and amongst the younger, like, and for me, I guess I'm old school, but I have been taught that that's a bad word and it's not something I really can stomach. So it's hard for me to comprehend where it became a term of like camaraderie between the younger generation.
yeah, well, and not only the younger generation, but used by other older generation, but only in
You're right.
certain settings, and that's
You are
that's
right.
just the complexity of the word itself. We didn't invent it, but we now own it. Okay, and we
Isn't
own
that odd?
the rights to it and how it's used and who it's used by. That the N word is probably the most controversial word in the entire system and its use. Okay, and that's just the
But it's
nature.
a constant. You hear it constantly now.
Yeah, well, I've heard it constantly all my life, but now it's more even universal. I see and hear Caucasians using the N words within to describe their camaraderie within their own. So
See, I
why
don't see that. Like, unless
the
it's like making like a joke of it, like meaning like how ridiculous. Like, but I really don't see that. For my own experience,
yeah.
I know that
Well, you're
most
not
people
out
cringe.
there. You're not out there in the streets, so to speak.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
So,
So
but
maybe it is like white people who are growing up in that kind of area, like listening to that music, they kind of feel like since it's so prevalent in the music, or maybe their black friends say that
and
fluently. I
and
have no
and
clue.
and blacks who used to that would never you as if you're a white person, even if you lived in the hood, you couldn't get away with that talking or using that word, even if it was your best buddy and that you grew up with them. But now the younger generation, their parameters of that are a little different, and
It
they
gives
don't.
such a mixed message.
Yeah. But it's just like you said. That's just the nature of the word. I mean, how it's used now. It's just so I don't.
Hiya, Blavi.
Hey, Ablavi, what's going on?
I feel like though, even that there's a lot of words. Not only that, in the songs today, in like that WAP song, things like that. I feel like all of that is getting to the point where, no matter who's singing it, it's like so shocking to me that I'm almost clutching my pearls. You know what I mean? Like, oh my God, did they just say wet ass PUSSY? You know what I mean? Like, that's in a song? Like, wow. I feel like, yeah, how far does the society as a whole push things, you know? Remember when like Elvis they couldn't even show him from his waist
Right.
down, his hip, and now it's like, wow, they have no, there's no
Hey,
boundaries.
did you ever stay up Thanksgiving Eve and cook when your daughter was growing up and you were a little bit younger? Like, did your mom do that? Like cooking?
No,
Now that it's Thanksgiving, I'm thinking, I just remember my mom staying up all day and then even into the morning, and she'd be cutting off about 2 o'clock, in the morning after starting at like 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. And
I
uh,
wish I had that kind of stuff going on and those kind of memories for holidays, but I
yeah,
don't.
my
Yeah.
daughter was doing that tonight, and when I last talked to her about, I guess about 7 o'clock her time, she was fixing some dressing, and then her boyfriend was gonna be doing some meat and macaroni and cheese, and she had a couple
I like when
pies.
people put egg in their macaroni and cheese.
Oh, do you? Do you? Oh, you mean like a
Yeah, I
scrambled
like
egg?
it.
Okay, okay,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, they
And
mix
when she,
a raw egg in with it before they bake it, and it kind of like coagulates, like keeps it together, kind of thing. I don't know. My friend Reggie used to do that.
when
But
Ablavi said, "I am so tired," uh, and
I'm not done cooking.
still not done. Yeah, but when my daughter showed me that picture, because we were doing the FaceTime of those two pies in the oven, I said, "Grandma would be proud of you." That
What
she.
kind of pies?
Oh, they were sweet potato pies. So
Mm.
uh, keeping that tradition going, and I want my daughters to do that. And because me and my late wife did it. We cooked. All the time, but cooked especially on Thanksgiving and then Christmas. My mom always did the Christmas too. She would be up even later Christmas Eve than she would be getting so unwound and getting kind of grouchy, and it's like, mama, damn. But the older she got, the less she did. So by the time she got to her, like, her to the late 70s and 80s, she was just doing the Christmas breakfast, and that was it. So Ablavi, it's good to see you doing the Thanksgiving.
How many people are you cooking for, Ablavi?
Yeah, tell her, come up, Ablavi, and let's talk about a little bit about cooking for Thanksgiving and stuff. So, uh,
My mother used to always say she hated turkey, so she would never cook turkey. She was,
turkey. Yeah, well,
yeah,
and
she
I
hated
think I
it. I
think
hate
that folks
turkey.
try to, after a while, you cook turkey for so many years that it's good to change up and maybe cook some brisket. Or my mom would always have like a a prick roast, along with we
But
have
but
three.
I think that a lot of people don't eat turkey throughout the year, so it is kind of like a once a year really kind of thing, you know.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't like the stuffing inside of the bird. I just like stovetop
Oh, you
stuffing. I
like
don't
it
like
separate? You like it separate, huh? Yeah, yeah. I
ugh
like
inside the
either
bird.
or.
That's gross. You do inside it?
Yeah, either or, either outside of it, inside, but it's moisture when it's inside of it, and it kind of imparts a taste, kind of a different taste on some of the meat, in the turkey. But she always had like a chicken too. He had a a whole chicken, a whole turkey, a ham, and then a pork loin roast. Those were
Ham
always
I like.
present, always present. I love the ham. I eat more of the ham than anything. So.
I usually would just let like my daughter, like when she was growing up, like do the holidays dinners and stuff
Yeah.
with her
Well,
father's side.
what is she doing tomorrow? Because I know that you had talked about you might get together with her, but and then, but I've spent the last three alone, or last two alone. This will be let's see, 19, 20, and now 21. So, but
We're
that's
just gonna go
okay.
to the 50s. She's gonna eat with her, her father's family,
Oh, okay, good,
and
good.
then we're just gonna go to the 50s diner after that.
Oh, okay,
Her and
okay,
I, yeah, because
okay.
like I said, I wasn't like growing up. We weren't. It was different. It was like you know, Christmas time, my mother would, you'd get her like what you thought she wanted. And then she'd go, "Why'd you buy me this fucking thing? I hope you catch a fucking receipt," you know? Yeah, it was like, oh God, it was a constant. So there wasn't, yeah, no celebration. I often wonder if that has something to do with my mother, growing up in England during World War II. Is
Huh?
maybe,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
I just never had that type of. I've always watched it and seen it like on TV and heard people talk about it where they're cooking and all their families come in and stuff. And I've always wanted that, but this wasn't
yeah,
in the cards.
yeah. And you never did anything related to Hanukkah, huh?
No, no,
Okay.
no, because
Yeah,
he wasn't around. And that's the thing, I'm not like really saying like Jews are perfect. I mean, look at my father; he was a fucking dick. But it just scares me the hatred that the natural compassion in people doesn't play a role. Like, when somebody's begging for their life, like a police officer, that when I sent you the Daniel Schaefer one and he's begging for his life and they
yeah,
still shoot him, he was just like a exterminator.
yeah,
Um, and that is like where I can't comprehend that kind of hatred in people. I think that would be a mental illness to me.
yeah,
Seems like it should
yeah.
be mental illness to be violent.
I'll
But
be
it's
right
still the same,
back.
Go ahead.
I'll be right back. I'm going to put on some coffee water. Okay.
Okay. All right. But I was doing like, quite a bit of research and stuff and I have to like, I don't know, wonder about I don't know. Anyway, so Thanksgiving, yeah, that's I wish I was having like some kind of a I forgot it was Thanksgiving. I'm not gonna even lie to people. I really did. I forgot that it was Thanksgiving. I looked at the date and I said, "Holy crap, is it Thanksgiving?" I was like, "That's so messed up." And then within another month, it's gonna be Christmas. It's like, oh my god, time just flies by so fast. It's like shocking, how fast time flies. So when you're young and people say, "Oh, relish every moment," time flies fast, and you're like, "Oh yeah, yeah, right. I can't wait till I'm this age. I can't wait till I'm that age." Believe them, because you're gonna be those ages before you even know it, and it's like just flies so fast. It's incredible. It's like a minute can tick by like an hour, but a year can tick by like a minute.
So, what do you think that they're doing? At the spots you used to bartend at tonight.
I don't even like to think about it, because the night before Thanksgiving used to be one of the best, nights of,
Yeah, I was going to
for the
ask you,
bars.
was it always busy the night right before Thanksgiving or the night
Yeah, that
of?
was one of the biggest bar nights of the year. Was the night before Thanksgiving, and I hate to even think about it because I love that kind of shit. People's lives can take a turn in an instant.
You
In
ever
an
made
instant.
on tips like tonight? Do you think you would make $100 in tips?
Oh, there was times you would make $300 in tips.
Oh shit.
Yeah, working, 6, 7 hours of then your pay. You'd make the whole like what somebody makes in a week
And
in,
if you if you
8 hours.
had if you had a short order cook on, would you tip him?
Um, it, we didn't really have short order cooks on, like
Okay. Okay.
yeah, it was
You
after the
guys,
COVID that they started like demanding.
out of all the spots you were in, you there was never like appetizers or anything.
Well, yeah, there was, but usually they get paid like a different, I mean,
Okay.
if you have to like say that they're there making, $15 an hour as a cook, and you're there making, $6 an hour as the bartender, but it's a shitty night, and then you're still supposed to, they still get their $15 an hour,
Yeah.
but the
Yeah.
bartender doesn't.
I
That used to
remember
sometimes bother me,
I
tipping out.
remember when I was like a dishwasher in high school. The all the waitresses would tip me out like $5 each, and I get some nights 15,
You
20.
would tip the busboys out at
Yeah,
certain, the waitresses and stuff, tip the
yeah,
busboys.
yeah,
Because the waitresses are, depending on that table, so they want the table bussed as soon as possible. So that was very, an understandable thing. But that was back then when waitresses were only getting like $2 an hour.
yeah. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, $2 an hour. And then if you would work for one of those chain restaurants like Pizzeria Uno or something,
Uh-huh.
you'd get 3 tables,
Yeah,
and that because they put so much wait staff on, and you'd get like 3 tables, and then you'd have to tip out the bartender, the bus boy, So it was like, what the fuck, you barely were making anything.
yeah, yeah.
Usually the shot and the beer places are the best places
Oh, is that
because you
right?
just
Okay, okay.
yeah, because you know a local crowd.
I remember I used to could return like somehow I got a hold of a bunch of some cakes, empty cakes, and would return them to like God, where I would return them to the city of Bellevue somewhere to like a bar place. And I'd be getting like $50 for a cake for an
Yeah, you
empty
do. You
cake.
get a keg return. Yeah.
Okay, okay,
After
okay.
COVID, that like screwed up that whole industry in a way, I mean, right, when I had gone back to work, before I was diagnosed, it was like you could only have 25 people in. They had to sit 6 feet apart. They
Oh,
couldn't sit at the bar. You had to have food. You had to serve food, which I thought that was so strange. Why would you, in order to open back up, you have to serve food?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Huh.
Isn't that weird?
Wow.
What does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, yeah. Unless you were
Having to serve food.
defined as a pub or something, but I think even pubs have to have food
Isn't that
too.
ridiculous? To
Shit.
me, that makes me wonder, like, who was making the money off of having to serve food and then having to get like a two sink grease trap sink or something installed? You had to have that done
Yeah.
in order to open it.
How much of the uh fraud related to when they were able to apply during the pandemic for relief, and wasn't there some fraud going on with a lot of businesses that were getting the relief money and then either closing or not
Pub,
paying?
the bar.
Yeah, you heard a little bit about that too.
Of the fraud?
Well, that they were getting the money as relief for during the pandemic, but they still were closing eventually. And
Well, you know,
I really feel for the owners, especially of like more smaller mom and pop type eateries and places, that and they and a lot of them the government wasn't they weren't responding in a timely fashion. Um
that's what it is. Like, same thing with my landlord, like, for my, what, one of the tenants here, not paying their rent and going with this whole, like, in their mindset, the person was like, oh, it's COVID. I don't have to pay my rent now, even though COVID didn't affect them because they were on disability. If anything, getting the stimulus, they got a little bit more. So then with the courts being closed down and everything, so it's like they couldn't get the whole. It wasn't like they were going to be saved by COVID. It was basically just somebody not paying their rent, and that they couldn't get them out, even though because the courts are closed down and backed up by COVID. So in the meantime, these elderly people that own, the house that I live in are suffering.
wow, yeah, yeah.
You would think that after going like almost a year of not paying your rent, that they'd have to be removed, but they're still here, just not paying the rent. Yeah, I can't imagine how these people, who own the houses, they must feel like for their retirement. This was their retirement. Usually at this time they'd be in Florida, um, but they couldn't go this year
Yeah,
because of restrictions.
and how the those folks, those landlords and stuff, especially, you know, my sympathy is not so much for the big units, 700 more units, but for those, you know, small, for houses that were being
Yeah, they
rented.
just bought like a three family for their
Yeah,
retirement kind of
but they
thing.
couldn't evict anybody, but yet, it's been in some cases it was almost like a year, but
That's what I'm saying.
they were still having to pay the bank the loans,
Yeah,
back. So
yeah.
that's
Isn't that crazy? You don't have to pay the rent, but the person who owns the property still has to pay the mortgage.
yeah. That's that's fucked up. Jeez.
And they kept extending the, what is it, the moratorium, whatever it
Yeah,
was,
moratorium. Yeah,
for
the
not,
moratorium. Yeah. They
yeah,
kept
not kick
it
people
out.
out. So, but it's like, but they aren't getting and then one of the things was a nuisance law, right? For if the people were like basically a nuisance, that
Yeah.
that should override the whole, the moratorium. Uh, but they tried that and it didn't work. They're still here. And so, like, you'll see, these people, they're just like laughing at my landlord, going, oh, wow, it's a matter for the courts, it's a matter for the courts.
A
In the
matter for the
meantime,
courts.
here's the
Yeah.
other tenant, me and somebody else, like downstairs paying our rent, watching this person just get away with living here and not paying rent. Hi, throwback.
A little throwback. You
Mm,
see, throwback. I guess you see, we've kissed and made up.
yeah, we did. Because we had too much of a good friendship to fucking, let a
Yeah.
little dispute
But
fucking.
your girl throwback was in your corner, but that ain't, it's not a big deal. It's everybody's cool now. So, hello throwback, good to see you back.
I just think it's sad because I feel like the government is trying to make people who are, like you said, small property owners lose their property.
Yeah, well, especially those that have, have their mortgages in some way tied to like, I guess FHA related, yeah, the government would love to have that property back so they could
Yeah,
especially if it's
exactly.
a multi-home property, that's sitting on an acre or something that the government can say, hey, we're going to turn this into commercial or rezone this and turn this into commercial. Yeah, I'm sure. You
It's
know,
really
and the
sad.
banks, since they're not getting their money, on some things, they're looking for a default so they can go in there and snatch it or auction it off, and the vultures out there who still have some money that, not everybody's really affected by the pandemic, they're sitting there like vultures ready to flip that property.
Yeah, and in the meantime, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if I have to move, I can't fucking afford, you know, top dollar rent and stuff. I mean, I have 3 pets. I
Yeah.
mean, it's nice that
And
they
not
even
only
accept
that,
them.
you're going to need first, last, and then a lot of times first, last, and deposits. So,
Exactly. And a lot of places won't even accept the animals and stuff.
hey, in where you live or in the area, do they have that law where if you have a kid living there, they can't really like turn the water off or something like that? Have you ever heard anything like that?
Yeah, I have heard of that, but um, I'm just so in shock. Like, this person doesn't have a kid downstairs. I can't even, and I referred them. I feel horrible.
Yeah. Huh.
I've known this person since I was 15,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm like in shock that it never crosses their mind that what they're doing is such a bad reflection on me, them, and my God.
Yeah.
It's
You're
so
between a rock
frustrating.
and a hard place, an uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah, it's so frustrating because if I have to, if this rent goes up because of them or anything, I'll be fucked, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. Then yeah, I won't say you'll be applying for Section 8, but, a lot of people, you know, Section 8 for those who need it and qualify it for it. It's really a great deal in a lot of ways. I know guys I had a friend who used to, when I had my own painting business, he'd do a little bit of work for me under the table. And he had like he was in one of those Section 8 buildings that was like downtown by the Space Needle in Seattle, overlooking Lake Union, on the 11th floor, and all he had to pay was like, hell, I think he only had to pay like $80 a month or something like that.
Yeah, but like your taxes were paying the rest of his rent. You
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
that's prime real estate, and there it is. At Section 8. Like I've seen that in
Especially in
Connecticut,
my
across from an
especially my
ocean,
business.
right across from the ocean,
Huh?
right across from the ocean, Section 8,
Oh, what?
ocean
Are
view.
you serious? Over there on the East Coast?
Yeah, in Connecticut, I was like in
Wow,
shock.
right on the coast. You're kidding me. On the
No,
ocean.
right across from the ocean
It's
in New
like you
London.
walk out the door and walk across the street or a block down.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
wow.
Section 8 apartments. I just was like, wow, that is so incredible because basically they can still charge top dollar, but they get it from the government, the rest of the rent. It's guaranteed.
Yeah, but
They
those
don't have
those
to
those
deal with it.
Section 8 always has a ceiling though. For bedrooms. Like I think, it back, in the Seattle area, I think that for like a 2 bedroom, or say you got, 2 kids or something, it's a 2 bedroom. I think it tops out like, I think probably around 1,600 maybe. I think it's based on what the market value of the area is. But,
Exactly. So
just
the
like,
market value of a place that's oceanfront would get top dollar.
oh fuck. And those places where you're referring to, I'm assuming that's like $2,800 a month for some of those on right on
Yep.
the Atlantic Ocean. Wow.
I couldn't believe it. A nice, oceanfront town. I mean, it was Section 8. And I'm not putting down Section 8 at all, but
No, no,
the
no.
bottom
I mean,
line is that one of the things is I have pets, you know. A lot of times they don't take pets in those kind of, circumstances,
yeah, unless it's a like what do they call
therapy dog or
it? Therapy
something.
dog? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And my landlord is nice enough to allow me my two cats and one dog.
Hmm.
Um, if I have to like relocate because of what's
And do
going
you
on.
do you pay a pet fee of like $50?
No,
Okay.
no.
Oh, you're really lucky. You're really lucky.
Mhm. Mhm. Exactly. And this apartment is one that I looked at since I was 22 years old. When I'd be going to work, I was working near here, and
Yeah,
I'd look up at it and go, "I want to live there someday. I
yeah.
want to live there someday," because
You
I love the
know what?
patio and the view.
I remember those like when I was, like when I was like 14, 15, and oh, I want to live there, and then you got that age where you could live there and they were run down or something like that.
No, it was like amazing to me. Like when I was looking to move from the other apartment where I'd lived for 20 years, all of a sudden here it was for rent. And she said she liked 12, 30 people looked at it. She liked 12 people. She put our names in a hat and picked mine.
That's a blessing there. You lucked out there. That is a blessing. Wow. For that many
That's what
people.
I thought.
You at the right place at the right time, or you just driving by one day, or
Yeah, I was just driving by thinking
wow,
about I
it
gotta
was
get out of where I
perfect.
live because I was being stalked. Remember I was
Yeah,
telling you about that?
yeah,
And I was
yeah.
like, I gotta get out of there. And I said, it wouldn't be so to myself. I was like talking to myself. It wouldn't be so bad if this place was for rent. And I
Yeah.
looked up, and with the for rent sign on it.
And places are bad on giving back security deposits now. Uh, say you put down like $400 for a deposit, you'll be lucky if you get like $100. Even because they'll take out for shampooing carpets and stuff like that. Even if you have receipts that it was done by they'll still take that out. And I've gotten screwed on a couple of after I we sold our first house. We moved, then we rented for a while. Okay. And we were always getting shafted on those fucking security deposits.
You
Even
know that these landlords actually gave that person who hasn't been paying their rent, they gave them their security deposit back in hopes that they were gonna
just
move.
refolded back into paying the rent, huh?
Yes, yep, and they
That shit didn't
didn't.
happen, did it?
Nope, it didn't. Nope,
And
didn't.
that might have been $1,300 or something. Shit.
It was. Yep,
Jesus
yeah. And
Christ.
fucking, it's just so shocking to me to know that this person who I knew since I was 15 has changed so much, and that's because
Yeah,
of drugs, I would
yeah.
say.
Yeah, you were telling me, geez, yeah.
Hmm.
I hope that they, because this moratorium, actually, the moratorium, I think, is up now, and so I know that it is with utilities finally, but utilities got a little bit longer. But I don't have a problem with my utilities, but they send around that notice. Whole moratorium is just about up,
I
so.
didn't know they had a moratorium on utilities.
Yeah, yeah. During all this time, the utility company says, "Oh, if you're having problems paying your gas or your electricity or something like that, they're giving people extra time, But then they send around that thing your with your local, I mean, with your monthly bill that the moratorium for those of you who need more time, the moratorium's just about up. So
And here I was like a fool, just paying my bills like always. Right? Just paying my bills,
Yeah,
like I've
but
always done. It's just
it
a
don't go.
normal
It
thing to
doesn't.
me.
It's not like it disappears. You still got to pay it back sooner or later. So you might as well just stay on top of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like for me, rent has always been my first priority because it's a roof over my head and over my pet's head and my daughter's when when she's here. So You know, do you have any grandkids?
No, I don't. I don't.
Are you looking forward to that?
Uh, I can take it or leave it. I was thinking about that the other day. I can take it or leave it. You know, and
Now, what made you not go
I'm
to?
surely not one of those parents that's like, okay, y'all better give me some. Where's the little grandkids at now? Kind of putting pressure on their kids to give them grandkids. Because, I told you before, I didn't have my first child till I was 29. And my oldest daughter's 28 now. And even though she lives with their boyfriend and, they have enough, they're both in a career job, they could easily support a kid, and she's got her condo and everything. But they're smart about it, I think. And, it's not the time. So
You
whenever
notice, like, remember years ago, you would see a lot of more pregnant women.
what just you mean at a certain age, or just kind of
Just,
out and about?
no, just seeing pregnant women. It seemed like
Huh.
I see less pregnant women now than I used to see when I was, like years ago. There was, it seems
Yeah,
like people
but I
maybe the
see
cost
them.
of living.
I see old, little bit older now because you remember that. I remember when my mom had my younger brother. He was born in '69, and she was like 38 at the time. And I remember her not. She didn't feel bad, but she brought it up a couple times. Like I'm the oldest, one of the oldest having babies. But a lot of women are establishing their careers first, and a lot of women are having babies like 42, 43. There is a lot of women out there now, and used to that would be almost unheard of. You had a baby at 42,
I
43. Wow.
know. My mother was older when she had me. Do you still
Okay.
talk to your siblings?
Yeah. We're close, but not like a lot of other siblings. Like my late wife, sir, her and her brothers and sisters would talk to each other like once a week, twice a week. I talk to we text each other once in a while, but like physically talking to my brother and my two brothers and my sister, maybe like once a year. you know,
That's
just
how it is with
yeah,
me and my sister.
there's no issues between us or anything. We were just kind of raised to be independent. Some
Mhm.
siblings are really clannish, and some aren't. Me and mine aren't.
I always wanted that, like a close family. Throwback says grandkids will fill the into the gap perfectly. They always do, I think. And
Uh,
she said that she had her last one when she was 38.
okay, how many kids? Throwback. How many kids do you have now? I mean, how many grandkids do you have now? And
Throwback lives in a scary area in Michigan.
do you, do, do,
Right.
do you have a grandchild?
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Okay, okay. Your
No.
daughter's more like, she's like my daughter, more just kind of career right now, and
Exactly.
taking care of that,
She
and
says she's never having kids.
okay, all right. Yeah, if I have one, fine. If or one or two, or if not, it's up to them, and so I don't worry about it, it might
Three. She
be kind of
said
neat,
three.
huh?
Three grandkids or three kids? Throwback.
No, I got just two kids.
No, no. Throwback said three. I
Oh,
think
she's
she was
got
answering your.
three. Okay. Oh,
I
okay.
can't remember if you asked grandkids or kids.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Do you
Grandkids.
remember?
Grandkids. I asked if so she's got three children, huh? How many grandchildren does she have? How many grandchildren throwback?
That's what I'm saying. I can't remember if you asked how many
Oh,
grandkids or how many kids she
okay.
had.
Oh, yeah. Which one yeah, was three. Yeah.
Uh, see,
I like,
I'd like to have a grandkid.
I'm 58. I have friends who have like great grandchildren.
I
you know,
know. I
they
always
had a
see
baby.
like
Oh, she says three.
grandkids and three kids, so she has three and three.
Okay, three and three. That's cool. That's cool. Well,
Do they live in Michigan
she's
too? Throwback. Have you ever been to Michigan? Day Day.
me. Years and years ago, we went to Detroit, but that was in the mid '60s, and I don't really, I remember that trip vaguely.
Why were you going to Detroit? Just like a visit?
Oh, just because my mom's brother was there, last time I've been to like Illinois, so Chicago was 1983, and so that's the last time I've been in that area.
My daughter lived in Chicago. She loved
Oh,
it.
huh?
She loved Chicago, my daughter.
Oh, does she? Does she? Probably loves the
Well,
pizza.
she doesn't live there anymore, but she did.
Yeah, yeah. Was she
Yeah,
going to
she moved
school
there
there
after
at one
college.
time?
No, she moved there after college. She had visited a friend there that was from, here,
Yeah.
and they had moved to Chicago. And when she went and visited, she liked it so much that she moved there. Her best friend moved there, and that was where she actually met her boyfriend now. He was from this area, but living in Chicago, and they ended up meeting, and then they both moved back this way. So,
Okay.
I was kind of glad that she met a boyfriend that lived up this way because, kind of brought her up closer.
Yeah, yeah. In
Yeah.
Chicago, it's like it's the tale of it can be not forgiving, as far as it's a big, big, huge old city, and it's really progressive in a lot of ways, and yet in other ways it can be very dangerous. So, but I still got my aunt and uncle there, and a few cousins there in Chicago. So,
Have you
um,
ever had any? I know this is totally off topic, but have you ever had any experiences with ghosts?
with what ghost?
Ghosts.
Like Casper the Friendly Ghost type?
Yeah, like paranormal experiences.
Uh, no, I haven't. I'll have to say that. Yeah, no, I haven't.
Not
But
even when you were growing up.
none. But when you think about it's not that I don't believe that phenomenon exists, but I don't think, but I think that's where movies and stuff has painted ghosts. I don't believe in like spooky ghosts. I believe though there are paranormal, spiritual type movement and activity around us.
When your wife passed away, did you have any kind of odd experiences or anything?
No, none, and none other than what would be more considered more internally spiritual. No,
Okay.
no physical external type that I can really think of. Sometimes you feel presences, maybe the presence of something,
Hmm.
but I don't know. It's strange. I've been dreaming a lot lately for some reason. I go through periods of dreams, and I've been in some heavy dreaming periods now. And it's funny how I'll see faces that are of a different that of like either my mom or something or my father, and they'll be of a younger age or something,
And
and
that's odd, huh?
yeah. And it's funny, you were talking about premonitions the other day, and it's strange because in my dreams, sometimes I'll be in a place or a building or somewhere that I've never seen before in real life, but I'm familiar with it in the dream as if I've been there before. It's just so weird about that. And or I had a dream not too long ago that I was back in a building at Boeing, okay? And but the Boeing the building was not like any Boeing building that I had worked in, but yet it was like I was familiar with it. And
That's
it's
weird, huh? Like maybe like an
yeah,
out of body experience. Like you're there, but you're not.
yeah, well, it's like I'll go from room to room or something in it, or walk, and it's like I've been at this place before. You know, it's just really weird, and it's kind of intriguing while I'm in the dream, you know.
How does the dreams usually end?
They usually end abruptly, and I used to have. Sometimes I have control over how they end, and sometimes I don't.
I haven't
Most
dreamed
time,
in like so
most time,
long. I can't even remember the last time I had a dream.
and for some strange reason, my dreams will be detailed in what I'm doing. There'll still be that kind of, fogginess, but I'll be in the dream for like uh, what feels to be a couple of hours, and then once I'm out of it, I can't recall much of it. That's really
Yeah,
weird.
it's not weird. Like it makes you almost wonder if it's like like somewhere else and it's actually happening. I don't know. I just can't believe I
Yeah,
haven't dreamt in so long.
yeah, but I said I dream in spurts, and I used to could say to myself, "I want to dream about something tonight," and I would dream. But like the last week, I've kind of been on a dreaming spurt, and then I'll go a week or two, or maybe a month or something, and not recall hardly anything. You know?
There's some dreams though that I recollect like detail for detail, even though they were like years and years ago, because they were just that vivid. Like when you wake up and you're still, feeling the emotions of it kind of. When I was young, I had a dream where I had like an out of body experience and could see myself on the bed.
Wow. There's a ghost named Rachel Reed in the talk
I
now. I don't
died
know
today.
that.
Just woke up after my mom passed. Daughter and myself heard her shuffle and open her closet door. We both walked to look at the closet, but of course it was closed, mostly ghostly.
Wow, and it's amazing that Rachel says that, because my daughter says that when she was younger, she was at my grandmother's house, and she saw the rocking chair moving back and forth,
Oh,
and
that would be
she
scary.
and she talked to grandma about it, and she says that that was father, the grandfather, and that she talks to grandfather sometimes. But see, I'm not sure if I would probably welcome something like that. I wouldn't see it as necessarily spooky as much as inviting something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Scary. We had brought my sister's ashes to England, after she passed away in 1984. And we brought her ashes and put them at this place called Hague Hall, and that we had visited when, we were kids and stuff. And so my mother had asked if she could put the ashes there. And so we did. But then years later, like just a couple of years ago, I was searching through YouTube for like ghost hunts or ghost happenings at Hague Hall where, we put her ashes. And
Hmm.
I come across this um, Worsley Paranormal Group, is what it was called. And they had done EVPs at the Hague Hall and in the surrounding areas in Wigan. And they had an EVP of where this woman, they said this woman kept coming through that is not English, which my sister was American, and doesn't sound old and sounds very sweet, which was like my sister. And so I listened to it, and the woman keeps repeating my name over and over.
She kept repeating your name over and over.
hmm Tracy, and it sounds just like my sister. And I actually sent it to both my sisters, and who are pretty skeptical of that, and they both said, "Wow, that's really weird."
Wow, that is wow.
Yeah, they kept saying Tracy, and I know how my sister speaks, and that's exactly how my sister sounded. It was just so weird to me. It
And
made me feel bad.
who knows how many like souls are around us, how many spirits in terms of just, and obviously it's not ghostly, at least to me, because nothing's, it's not like a Vincent Price movie or something like, something spooks and stuff. But because think about all the people that have died in the world since the beginning of the world, that their bodies, unless they're cremated or something and their bodies scattered in the ocean, they're still here in the ground. Or I mean, they're whatever, the physical skeleton and stuff, but their spirit, I don't know. I don't, like reincarnation and stuff. I consider myself a Christian, so I'm not really kind of into reincarnation other than, that being of a heavenly type thing. But a lot of people believe you come back as different things. And, I hope not for myself. I don't want to come back in the year 2090 and got to go through all that shit as come back as a elephant or something, or
As an elephant. And your day inside, and you're like, "Can I get YouTube, please?
yeah, I gotta
Where's
come
that
back. I gotta
shoe?
come back with this shit, you know.
Yeah, look at this trunk. Look at this trunk." When I was little, I was with my mother at a laundromat, and I was real little, and she was putting the clothes in the dryer, and they were like, front loading these huge dryers, and I was like screaming and crying and throwing the clothes out of it, going, "You'll kill him! You'll kill him! You'll kill him!" Right? And way in the back, after I'd thrown all the clothes out, in the back was this tiny children's yarmulke, right?
What's the
And
Yamada?
a yarmulke, like the hats that a Jewish person would wear.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And, I was little. And when I would like, right before I go to sleep, I'd put it over my face and I'd be talking, right?
Hmm.
And my mother said, "Who are you talking to?" And I would say, now I was little. I knew nothing about anything. And I would say Stalin. I didn't know who Stalin was,
Uh-huh.
right?
Wow.
And my mother was like in shock. And just like a few months ago, I was talking to my sister, and I didn't even know that she knew about any of that. And she goes, "Do you remember when you were real little and you would talk about the days in Russia and talk about Stalin, and you would tell us about living in Russia during that time, real details, and that her and my mom had actually looked some of the stuff up that I was saying, and it was like real. So I don't even remember telling them detailed stuff, but I do remember the whole, laundromat incident and the yarmulke and saying that. But for my sister to just come out with that and say that I would tell them detailed stories of living in Russia during World War II.
Oh my goodness. Now that's eerie, kind of.
I thought that was
Wow.
so weird.
What's
That
kind
was
of weird too is I noticed, and this just seems like it's happened like the last 15, 20 years to me, is that somebody I haven't seen for an extremely long time will pop up, and then I'll some then a couple weeks later I'll hear about their passing, or somebody that I used to congregate with years ago or go to elementary school with or something, will come back into my life briefly, or I'll see them in the store or run into them somewhere, and then all of a sudden they're gone. And that's
yeah, that
happened
is weird.
with a few people.
Like
Uh
that has happened to me too. Like where all of a sudden I'll think of somebody, and then next thing like in my head I'll think, "Oh, I should reach out to that person," and then they're dead, and it's like I'll almost kick myself for not reaching out when I should have, or
yeah,
something.
yeah, 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 yeah. I
It's
remember I
crazy.
walked past my aunt when she was over the house, when my father passed, and we were having, it was after the funeral and everything, and I hadn't talked to my great aunt in like years. It's just one of those things that she only lived across town, but she never, mama talked to her, but I didn't really, and I remember walking past her thinking, you should say something to your aunt. And I didn't. And then she was gone within 3 years later, so
In
it's
three
just,
years later.
yeah, yeah.
Like as if, it was just a week. I didn't have the time to talk to her after that. Yeah, over those 3 years, I would think about giving her a call, but
And
yeah, no, but
then,
I'm the same way because I will
and
think to myself, I should call that person, and you think you've got forever, but you just
yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow.
Like Rachel said, energy never goes away. And that actually is a scientific proven fact that the electrical energy that sends the impulses up your spine
Yeah,
to
yeah.
do things is like scientifically proven that you could never kill electrical energy.
Well, what do you think about those paranormal shows that are on? Like, I don't know if you have cable and you see there's a lot of paranormal shows on it. They'll take those devices in. That's, you mentioned like EVT or something. Is that what that is or something earlier?
Yeah, the EVPs, the
Okay, yeah,
electronic
they
voice
can
phenomena.
detect. I guess, what did they detect? Like electromagnetic vibrations or occurrences
Well,
or
that's the
something?
EMFs. Those are the electric
Okay,
magnetic fields that
okay,
will detect. But some of them can also detect, uh, even if there's that in the air, something with the
yeah,
wires and everything. Some of that can have a big field, and
yeah.
um, but as for the the EVPs, I think that's kind of really creepy. Actually, like when you hear that kind of voice, kind of makes you feel sad.
Well, I also believe, like the police department hires um people. They're not psychics, but there are a lot of cases and stuff that have been solved by people that were able to, that they see things, uh and I don't know what they call those people. Okay, maybe they are
Like the
psychic.
psychic detectives or something.
Yeah, and that stuff is real. They've solved a lot of cases, a lot of cold cases, and they've went to these people. I don't necessarily believe in, I don't know, tarot readers or crystal ball people or anything like that, but I think, or remember Dionne Warwick had a psychic
Oh
hotline.
yeah, what was her name? Oh yeah, she did. Didn't she have an aunt though?
Yeah, or something like that. I remember Latoya Jackson, Michael Jackson's sister had. She was on. She was claiming to be a psychic, and but I think,
No, it was Dionne Warwick who was doing the psychic channel,
yeah,
wasn't it?
Dionne Warwick and Friends or something. Was she? No, she wasn't the one doing it, but she'd always like co-host it, and she'd
Do
be
the
talking.
commercial for it.
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, Dionne Warwick and Friends, or some psychic friend.
Yeah, that was a big thing then. People were calling, getting charged all kinds of money
Yeah,
and shit.
yeah, she made millions off of that, didn't she?
Isn't that crazy? I know.
But I
I
do
do
believe
believe
that.
though in some of that stuff because I used to watch this show. I forget what it was, something Sensing Murder, I think it was called. But
Okay,
now I think you have to pay for it to get the show. But they used to have it like free on YouTube, and it was based in New Zealand. And these psychics, man, were incredible. I mean, and they even had like a cop that was like, I want to see if this is a farce. And so he stayed, like during one of the filmings of the show, he was there just to see if any of the camera crew gave any kind of hint, if there was any kind of, signaling going on or anything. And he said, no, there wasn't. And these psychics, I mean, they wouldn't tell them where they were going to, and they'd fly them in, and then drive them to the hotel, whatever, so that they couldn't research ahead of time,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them wanted the picture of the person like upside down so they didn't see it. And
Okay.
these people, man, were
Accurate.
incredibly spot on. It
Wow.
was so crazy. And they would actually take a map and they'd say, okay, I want to go here on the map. And then the person, driving, they'd say, okay, stop here. And I mean, the majority of the time, these people were like basically right outside of the people's houses or wherever something had occurred pertaining to them,
Yeah.
right out front of their house. I mean,
Wow.
it was incredible. And one guy, he quit right on the show. He said he was going there to do like, how the bush is in like New Zealand and Australia. The woods are so thick. And he was going to look for somebody, but as they're going through this parking lot of the place, he's going, I see a young woman over there near a red car, like a red hatchback car.
Mhm.
And the person who uh, knew that it was a man that they were searching for, but they also knew that a couple of weeks before there had been a young woman who was found dead in her car, a red car, in that parking lot. And as they got further in, the guy, he started crying. He said, there are so many people buried here. I can't take it. I have to get
Oh
out of here.
man! Whoa!
Quit,
Whoa!
quit right on the show. He quit. He said, I no, and he's still on, YouTube has a show, but he will not do any psychic investigating like that anymore. He couldn't
Whoa!
take it. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
just really
See,
amazing. The show was incredible.
do you know anything, or have you heard anything about seances before? If you know, or I wonder, has that been, because I think people still are involved in it. I remember Houdini was involved in it because his mother, he was so close to his mother, and when she died, he tried to connect with him, but he was always being defrauded because like in the turn of the century or the 1920s and stuff, that was really big seances.
Yeah, the faking of them and taking people's money. There was a guy, I
Yeah,
guess I can't remember his name.
yeah.
And like I guess Houdini had said to his wife, if I can come back, I will, but I really don't think that he ever did, in any of those
Oh,
seances.
Houdini. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I
you
did
know.
actually one time was at a friend's house and I mean I was sitting there and fucking he couldn't see like where I could see, and I could see this chair with a hand towel, it was hanging over the back of it, and I'm sitting there, and this hand towel starts lifting up into the air, and like as if you were going to dry your hands on
Yeah,
it, and the back
yeah,
of it,
yeah,
yeah, and it scrunched together like somebody was drying their hands on it,
yeah.
and then went back down. In the meantime, I'm speechless. And I'm going, that, and I'm pointing, and the guy, he thought that somebody was coming through the back door, so he stood up, and I, I got that hand towel just, I mean, I started crying because I was like, I can't believe I just watched a deliberate, you know, movement of
Yeah.
something that wasn't even there. And he said, oh, that's just my brother David. I took that from his apartment whenever he's around. And he points to this dream catcher that was hanging up. He goes, that dream catcher will go in a circle. And as soon as he said it, the dream catcher just went into a circle, you know?
Oh my goodness. And your son
Yeah.
saw that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Your
my
son.
God. It was incredible to me that this thing, there was nobody there. It was unbelievable. It was just
Whoa,
like somebody was drying their hands on the towel.
whoa.
Hmm.
You remember the woman? You remember the show Taxi, the sitcom Taxi,
Yeah.
and the chick who was the I forgot what her name.
Mary Lou Henner.
Yeah, Mary Lou Henner. Did you have you ever seen that where her memory she could recall like a day in 40 years ago? So they would say like, well, what was it like 1971 on this day? She says it was a Tuesday and it was like raining and it was like, I did this that day and it just like incredible. I mean, that's a little different than maybe
Like
paranoia.
photographic memory.
Yeah, yeah. For I would love to
Mm.
have a memory like that.
I
Wow.
used to until cell phones. I used to remember everybody's phone number. Now I can't.
But when you sometimes, I've been under the influence before, and I think that you're capable because your mind is altered in an unnatural way that sometimes, our brain is just it's incredible. It's just they say we only use what one quarter of our brain. Some people experts say, well, we use all of the capacity of our brain, but some say we don't. I think we can sometimes tap in to, like if you were on acid or something. I've never did acid, LSD, but I think sometimes those people during the hallucinations are of that kind of effect that you're tapping in to something in your mind that you don't normally are capable of tapping into under normal sober circumstances. And I think,
Rachel says in the Bible, there's the Hall of Souls, where when you die, a sparrow carries you back to heaven so God can put your soul into another baby. That's in the Bible.
hmm, I
I
don't
never
know.
heard that.
I don't know.
Joelback says, not sure I would believe it happens that way, Rachel. And Rachel says, sounds nice though. Did I feel goosebumps when I saw the towel move? I don't know, but I know I started crying because I knew that then, like, if some ghost wanted to kill you, they could basically throw you
uh,
down the stairs. Right? My mom had recollection skills like that. You could tell her a date. She'd tell you everything that happened all day long that was significant that day, like in newspapers. Hmm.
wow.
I think
Years
that's like a
before.
photographic memory. She could read a book and it'd be 5 years later, and you could ask her a page and a paragraph. Sometimes I'm like that. I sometimes think that a lot of the stuff that in the Bible, like maybe they weren't tripping then too,
Yeah, yeah. Huh. You
because they
never
did have
know.
hallucinogenics back then.
Huh?
They did have hallucinogenics back
Yeah, yeah,
then.
they had more natural, organic type of, just like the Indians have had a lot of different organics that it can be mind altering, like the peyote and stuff like that, and they've got like roots and stuff, aren't don't they have like certain mushrooms that can or certain I did mushrooms twice. It didn't really it had an effect on me, but I didn't like the high they gave me. I felt like a man that was like 160 years old. That's what I remember. It just gave me a really weird body stone. But there's so many things out there in nature that are untapped into flowers and roots and all kind of things, that can have an effect on you.
Yeah,
So
tripping. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean they probably were like fucking eating certain berries and
Well,
wondering why.
marijuana is totally natural, grows in the wild and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, God knows they might have been like smoking weed back then and not even known what it was, and you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. They
yeah,
obviously didn't have any laws holding them back.
yeah, really, they're like poppies and everything. I mean, they could have been putting hallucinogenics and everything. That could be why they thought the Red Sea parted.
Yeah. That was
Really, it
some
was
good
just low
shit, huh?
tide.
Anytime you see a sea part, that's some good shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, she says the Bible was actually voted on what would be in or left out of it. So unless you have access to what was left out of the Bible, That is a supreme memory. You never met anyone with that great of a memory. I have a pretty good memory, but I feel like maybe we just don't exercise our brain as much as we
Well, like
should, kind of, you know?
I was telling you, I think the other day, like how far I can remember back, and like I was born in October of '63, but I can literally remember like uh I remember my third birthday, but I remember like this is really weird. I remember I don't necessarily remember wearing diapers, but I can remember my mom pricking me when she'd put on my diaper because I always remember getting pricked by not always, but sometimes when she'd put it on, you know how we had cloth back then. We
Yeah, they
had
had nappies in with
yeah,
the
yeah, but you'd have to use those two safety pins, you know.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
remember, and I can remember potty training, you know, and shitting on myself and stuff, pissing on
Awesome. Those are great memories. Treasure them. Oh, just kidding.
yeah, but what
I'm
I'm saying
just
is,
kidding on myself. In your eulogy, yes, Day shat on himself. Do you want to get like? Are you gonna get buried or cremated when you die? Do you know?
most likely cremated. So yeah, it's a financial thing now. My
Isn't
mom
that
didn't really
crazy?
my mom didn't really believe in that. She wanted to be buried. The old crew, but you know nowadays with how you get buried and all that is just yeah, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. So it's economical because it's easier for to put me in a mausoleum is cheaper. Usually mausoleums used to be more, but now they're cheaper because with graveyards and stuff, they're running out of room and stuff. But I'm not one that wants to be sprinkled like over the over the
You don't?
outhouse.
You have no place that you would want to be sprinkled? No.
No, no. Under the huckleberry tree down in the park.
I'd want to go to the ocean. I'd want to be put in the ocean.
Ocean, okay. Just some seagull can swoop down and get a couple of your ashes.
No, so the fish can eat me, and then I could be fucking the Friday special.
Yeah, see, usually when you want to get sprinkled somewhere, it's because of your thoughts about that part of nature. So why there instead of like why wouldn't you want to be sprinkled in the mountains or
I
why
love the ocean.
you like to just because you like water or something
It
and
makes me feel alive, the ocean. And if
okay.
I wanted to like retire at the ocean, but say, I'm not rich enough to retire at the ocean,
Or would it have anything to do with once you're spread out to sea that you want to be you just your body want it to be you want your ashes to be carried potentially around the world.
yeah, right, exactly. Like all of that, I just love the ocean. And I mean, if I can't
That's one
retire
thing,
there, then I may as well be sprinkled there.
that's one thing that burns my ass about that whole bin Laden thing is that when they got rid of his body they did a what they were respecting his the way they did away with his body. Remember they buried him at out in the water. They put his body in a coffin or something and they took him out. Do you remember that? And they took him out
No,
to sea and they did that out of respect so they wouldn't incite any actions by any of the jihads and all that. And I just that to this day that's because those people who died in the World Trade Center, okay, they weren't given no luxury. There a lot of them are still buried at that site because I don't think that they recovered everybody's body.
no, they
And
didn't. They were pulverized.
yeah, but yet they're respecting the Islamic tradition, and I'm not in case anybody's on here who's who with who believes in Islam, and I mean, this is not about that, wronging that or anything, but it was the Marines that did that. I just, the people that were making that decision, I could have gave a fuck about where Bin Laden, how if they had just burned his body up right then and there, but they're respecting the fact that they don't want to set off somebody by,
Did they
giving
show
them
his body though? Like to the
uh,
like, did they prove that that was him? Like, did they show him or?
well, they claim they have, well, they claim recently that they had some type of dental records or a hair sample or something. It's just that was like 2 years out, because this happened 3 years ago. Has it been about? No,
Hi,
it was
Catherine.
when Obama was in, so it had to be about 5 years ago. Wow, has it been 5 years since we got Bin Laden?
Was
So
it Obama was in? Really?
yeah, remember he's the one that ordered. Remember they were down in the command room and it showed a picture of him and Clinton, Hillary Clinton. They were all in the room at the time. So yeah, it's been bad. It's been 5. It seems like it's only been like 2 or 3 years, but it's Trump's been in and out. That's
10
4 years,
years.
huh?
10 years.
Has it been 10 years
Mm-hmm.
since we killed Bin Laden? That was 10 years ago.
May 2nd, 2011.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Wow, it's been 10 years? Fuck.
yeah. And then it had said that a lot of the people, the Navy SEALs that were involved in it, that they had passed away as well.
You're kidding. Those guys were young. They said a lot of them have passed away. Huh, it's interesting. What's up, Cat? Cat's in the house. KG. KG's in the house. I know another KG. He plays basketball, though. I used to Kevin Garnett. That was a body double, and the SEAL team were killed. Wow, you think so? Body double? See, no, I'm thinking that's just, I don't know why, how, what we would gain from that type of uh theory on it, because Bin Laden had already kind of been out of the scene for a while. If it was 2011, then that was 10 years, obviously, after 2001. And a lot of people had kind of forgotten about him other than in the army. But I'm just, I'm just not sure. I don't think anybody can kind of stay out of sight that long, just like, they say Elvis is still around and Michael Jackson and all that shit, So I don't know. What happened to what happened to our girl SG? God, this woman got to stop taking shits in the middle of her live.
No, no, no. I just went to look. She said that was a body double, and the SEAL team were killed. I'm sorry, I was looking it up because she said, yeah, it says, history acquired
Well,
clearly.
yeah, like I said, I'm not sure what we would have to gain it from a body double on our end. Now you can see that Bin Laden, could he stay out of sight that long, and can he just disappear like that? And if that's the case, I just think we had too much intelligence on who it really was. And like I said, they claim they made a positive ID that was Bin Laden. So
So this is
they could have
SEAL
just
Team 6, and what really happened. It says, Shortly after the mission to kill Osama bin Laden, 30 American troops and 8 Afghanis were killed. On a moonless night, the helicopter, okay, among the 38 occupants inside the Chinook were some of the most highly trained and battle-seasoned fighters in the U.S. military, including 15 commandos from the Navy SEAL Team 6, the unit that had, okay,
Oh,
the
I thought
unit
it was.
that had 3 months earlier killed Osama bin Laden. Missions like this went with, okay, so then it says, flying low, the pilots tried to maneuver it, despite the, okay, on this night, something went terribly wrong, and people are still debating what happened. Okay, and then it just stopped right there. Bye. Huh. Then the story just stopped.
KG, you think that he was sick? That is that they were saying Bin Laden was physically sick, ailing at the time.
I don't know why it just stops the story right in the middle. I mean, that's fucked up.
Catherine asked the question, "Why do we think we were in Afghanistan?" I think that all had to do with 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 the Soviets being there for a time. Remember, the Soviets were there for a time, and then they just disappeared. Okay. One thing is they got their asses ran out of this. Almost like we got ran out of there. There was the Afghanistan was a no-win situation, a lot like Vietnam was. But if the Soviets, who had been there for years and years, really made no advancement, that we weren't really going to make advancement. They want to say that was a breeding ground uh, for those ISIS and other places, and maybe that to a certain degree is true, but so was like Somalia. Somalia was more or less even more of a breeding ground for that type of stuff. So it goes, uh, those ISIS, Al Qaeda, and there was one other, and then they get weak and one comes back. Now Al Qaeda is coming back, and ISIS is kind of on the out. So, and seems like there was one more. There was Al Qaeda, ISIS, and what was the other one?
It was
It was
Al Jazeera or whatever it was or something.
because it was Bin Laden was Al Qaeda, and then ISIS was kind of laced, but there was another one because they were. There was a few Americans that were all of a sudden that were getting caught up. Kids in Minnesota and Michigan and all of that stuff were getting caught up in it. God, what was the other group? It was Al Qaeda, ISIS, and there was seems like there was one more.
Yeah, see, it says in May 2000, I'm sorry, August 2011. So that was the same year where they killed bin Laden. Says that the operators from the SEAL Team 6 were flown. The largest single loss of life. The helicopter was shot down. That was the ones who had done, who had killed Osama bin Laden. It was the Navy SEAL Team 6.
Oh, okay. I always thought it was the Marines that got him, but you say it's Navy SEAL. Okay.
Yeah, and it says SEALs families blame the hold on a minute. Blame federal officials for fatal attacks. The parents of 4 U.S. Servicemen killed in Afghanistan. The SEAL Team 6 are suing Vice President Joe Biden and former Defense Secretary Leon Panetta, alleging that they prompted the attack by divulging the SEALs team role in killing Osama bin Laden. The
Oh,
Taliban
four,
claimed
four
responsibility.
SEAL members died during that. I didn't think anybody died. On
8.
our,
No,
8 of them
no,
died.
this was after 3 months after.
Oh,
Three
what did
months
they die
after
of?
Osama was killed. The Navy SEAL team that had killed him, 8 members of it died when their helicopter was shot down.
Okay.
Hmm.
Were they doing an exercise, either training or a combat mission at that time?
It's just there were last minute replacements who were not properly just as they were just doing some kind of a mission with
Catherine says he
the
was
kids.
on oxygen and his kidneys were failing. I didn't know he was in
Who?
diabetic. Catherine says so. Osama bin Laden's kidneys were failing him. He could have been diabetic or something, because he wasn't that old.
No, I have to go out and come back in.
Okay. So, KG, you think it was his brother, huh? So his brother would have had to been the same size, about the same size, because Osama bin Laden was he was about 6'3" or something, I think. Huh.
Okay. Yes, he was saying action. Hi, I'm back.
Okay.
Yes, he was on oxygen. Why do you think we were in? I mean, I have to like, oh, was over 6 feet tall. Why did they say that he was that the body that they had was shorter than 6 feet tall, Catherine?
Well, I would think that if it was his brother, he'd have to be the same size. Because, like I said, Bin Laden, I think he was up there. He's about 6'3" or 6'4". Maybe it's just because he was skinny, he looked tall. But I always thought he was kind of tall. But it just seems to me that recently, like within the last year or something, they've come out a little news brief or something. Though, well, it's been confirmed that that was Bin Laden. So um, I don't
I mean,
know.
you work with planes, right? When you saw the footage of
Yeah.
like the flight 93 and
Yeah.
77,
Yeah.
did that seem like feasible to you? I mean, like that one plane, it went into the
Oh,
in Pennsylvania.
then just kind of disappear.
Yeah, it just went into the ground and
Yeah,
disappeared. Like,
that was kind of weird of that one. Where was that, in Ohio or
no, in
something?
Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania. Yeah, and it just all you saw was a big hole in the ground, and they said they didn't find anything bigger than what a can or something of the plane. That
Yeah,
just
like a small, piece of,
Yeah,
very
and I think
tiny.
I saw something on that later on where the angle of the plane, it would have almost had to gone directly nose into it. But still you would think. But with all that jet fuel, which is very, very explosive. Although the planes that went into the Trade Center, they could have had a bomb planted on there too, in like one of the suitcases of one of the
Well, there
pilots.
was a picture of, like, I actually meant to send it to you, of one of those planes that went into the Trade Center that had something on the bottom of the plane that has never been explained.
Oh, is that
Um,
right? Huh.
yeah, in one of the pictures, there's something on the bottom of the plane. And that other one, the Pennsylvania one, they were talking about the cell phone calls. Remember, everybody was like calling on the cell
Yeah,
phones,
yeah, yeah.
and then they tried to change it to, oh, but it was the in-air flight phones. First, they had said it was cell phone, but some people had said, but it was from their loved one's cell phone. And they did studies. That plane was traveling at almost 600 miles per hour, and at one point was like 33,000 feet up in the air. And there's no way that the connection could have been made, on a cell phone, because the towers would be, the cell towers.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just know when I'm always on the plane, I can't use it even in airplane mode or whatnot. It's hard to use a cell phone. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were saying like that these, phone calls lasted for, such an amount of time that it seems almost, unfeasible. And then the Pentagon one where there was no plane, they didn't even find any pieces of the plane.
How many people died in the Pentagon one? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know
They
about
never
that.
said. They never talk about. It had to be some. There had to be a few people to die in that because that was a pretty good shot on that too.
Yeah, and I watched I watched continuous documentaries of it the other day, and they showed the poles that were in front of the Pentagon, like the street lights and everything, and they were bent away from the Pentagon. But they would have been, like a plane with wings like that would have, made more than a 15-foot hole.
Yeah. Wasn't Cheney in the Pentagon? There were a few people that were at the Pentagon, high level people that were at that building at that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, they were in there and their fucking other, there was just no burning on on the ground and the
Yeah.
grass. There was nothing. It was really insane. And they had 85 videotapes of, that were around the Pentagon because, of course, they had plenty of, surveillance cameras, and they wouldn't release any of them.
Huh.
And I just
Government.
really find it odd that all of a sudden, like when I was growing up, it was always the black box, the black box, the black box,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And as of lately, when there's like plane crashes, the black box is just not a factor anymore. Like that whole Malaysia flight, that shit's weird.
Oh, that
A plane just
Malaysia
disappearing,
five something. Yeah. Yeah.
370 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. It went straight into the ocean. Weren't there a couple planes that did that? There was
Yeah,
oh
that just
no,
disappeared.
the one that was Pan Am, that was in Lockerbie. That was in Lockerbie, Scotland. What's it called? Libya was responsible for that, I think.
Yeah, but they showed that clippings of that footage, and the plane and the burning and all of that was there. Where in these other ones, in comparison, like there was just nothing. And they were showing the World Trade Center and how it went down.
Yeah.
That it looked like a what do they call it? A
Demolition.
yeah, yeah,
Implosion, yeah, implosion.
yeah.
Yeah.
That they had squibs, and I mean that previous weekend, because it was on Monday. The weekend they had these people coming in and out, and they had a power down. They shut down all the power for the World Trade Centers over the weekend, and so that all the cameras weren't working or anything, but there was people in and out all weekend with toolboxes and everything. It's
Uh-huh.
amazing to me how that has not come up more in the investigation.
Especially when you see those that there's a couple online pictures. I don't know if Michael Moore did it or who did it, but you can see those explosives going like demolition, same ones that were are in demolition buildings going
Yes,
off
squib.
10 floors below the actual floors that are collapsing, you know?
Yeah, the squibs. That's what
Corpuscles.
they call it. And all those experts were saying that there's no way that that could have happened. I mean, those top floors could not have gone through all of those other floors unless there was absolutely like nothing but debris inside there. And that's what those squid would have been doing, basically. And they said that the first floor, the lobby, when those planes hit and the fire department and people got in there,
Yeah.
um, before the building collapsed or anything, that the first floor, the lobby, The windows were blown out. It looked like a bomb had gone off in there
Wow. How fucking
in the
suspicious.
lobby.
I wonder why they didn't evacuate the second World Trade Center immediately.
They were
Because
telling people to go back to their desk.
oh, in the other one, because the other plane was like an hour behind, the hour and a half behind the other one, wasn't it?
I think it was an hour and a half behind
Yeah,
it because yeah, those buildings went down in 10 seconds.
yeah, yeah.
Took
They
10 seconds for them to fall, and then the building 7 at 5, it
oh,
went down at 5. But
yeah, a bunch of those buildings, and it was like just over 1,000 people that died, but people will be dying from that the asbestos and shit for years. There's people dying now. There's like firefighters, a bunch of firefighters that made it out of that didn't get killed in the what's it called. There's a bunch of them dying now because of all that dust and shit. And
even the
people,
people that lived in the area,
yeah, and I don't know
the
if
people that lived in
they
the area.
if I don't know what recourse those people have as far as liability. Who can they sue? I don't know, because
Well,
if you
there's
try
the
to,
World Trade Center Victims Fund, but if you had any kind of life insurance, death
yeah,
benefit,
yeah, you're
anything like
supposed to
that,
take
it
that
gets
first
deducted from,
from
the
the
victim
settlement,
compensation
from the
and
settlement.
from the settlement. So you might only end up walking out with a few thousand, but
Wait a minute, back up here. You why would that be treated? I mean, the settlement's one thing, okay, and wouldn't your personal life insurance be something else? Why would it have anything to do with your settlement? And I'm sure they must, that settlement fund, if it's been set up, it's got to be several billions, because you had all of those people who were just down on the street. If you were in if you were in 4 blocks or 6 blocks of that, and you couldn't get out of the way, then I mean, you're breathing in some heavy duty shit, cement dust, and probably not a whole lot
silica dust. Yeah, silica dust, all of it.
of dust. Yeah,
They actually recently, what's his name? John Stewart. Remember, he was a
yeah,
comedian.
yeah.
Yeah, recently he's been, well, not recently, but the last couple of years, because they were having to fight for those firemen and first responders because they weren't allowing them any kind of compensation, even though the governor of New Jersey had said that the dust was not toxic, but sent them
That's
in all the dust.
bullshit. That's
Yeah,
bullshit.
it was bullshit. Yeah, and so that whole victim compensation, there was so much bullshit in that I just couldn't believe that Bush was able to make a law the day after 9/11 and make it retroactive to cover all of those businesses that were involved, so that they couldn't be held liable, so that American Airlines couldn't be held liable, or the Dulles Airport couldn't be held liable. Any of them companies could not be held liable, and he made it retroactive the day after 9/11.
Well, do you think? Well, do you think that's right? Or
No, I think it's crazy.
well, it was there. It has to do with security, and so I guess the argument would come that how were these guys, is these pilots, especially they train the pilots, actually, those Egyptians that were, or Saudis, or whoever, that Mohammed or whatever his name is.
No, they were trained here in Florida flight schools.
Okay. Okay. So, well,
Hmm.
actually, I guess then they should be held liable, because they were. unless they pass their background checks or something, you know.
Well,
Uh,
the security, the company that was like called Stratocom or something that handled the security for Dulles Airport, Port Authority, the World Trade Center for the airlines, all involved with that. The person who was in charge of that company, the two people, was Marvin Bush, who was George Bush's younger brother, and his cousin.
oh, okay.
hmm They were
Okay.
in charge of it, so it
That
was
was
their company that was going in there, in and out the weekend before.
that was the connection. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and they actually had said no air traffic right after 9/11, except for 6 flights, and they flew out some Saudis and the Bin Laden family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they flew them out, and like retired, um, you know, FBI agents and stuff said, of course we would have liked to have questioned them. We don't even understand why they were allowed to leave. They couldn't understand a lot of
Yeah.
things.
Well, according to that documentary by Michael Moore, the Bush family and Bin Laden families would have dinners and stuff together. You know, because Bin Laden's family, they were wealthy. They were wealthy Saudis. They were just as wealthy, if not wealthier than the Bushes. You know.
Yeah, well, Bush went to school with one of those guys, like boarding school or something, was like
Yeah.
roommates, and then yeah, they were tight. They actually do own companies together still.
Wow.
And then all those, companies that yeah were given the contracts like that Blackwater, Halliburton, Carlisle Group. They
Yeah.
were all companies that were on that you know
It's mighty funny
affiliate.
that Cheney, right before all of that, like the year that either he became vice president or something, because I don't remember if who his first vice president wasn't it Dan Quayle, or maybe that was old man Bush,
No,
but
that was the father. Dan Quayle was the
okay.
father.
Okay. But Cheney, all of a sudden, he resigned from the board of directors for Halliburton, but he was still receiving compensation. So
Yeah.
that's just you know that's underhanded shit there.
There's that. Yeah, there's so much
Because
underhanded shit.
the government contract for capping those whales, which was considered heavy duty, and those guys that were capping the whales, they got sick too. But that was worth millions and millions of dollars, and it took them a long time to cap those whales. I think it took them because I don't know how, and they said that the Saudis, I mean the Iraqians started that Whatchacom said, blow up all these whales, but I don't think that they did that. I think that Halliburton guys were responsible for blowing those whales up. Two
Probably. Take over for a minute. I gotta go. I gotta go pee. Take over. I'm gonna mute myself. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. The first oil well that Bush Jr. had built was Bin Laden's brother. The first oil well that Bush Jr. had. Oh, was it? That was related to Bin Laden's family, huh? Wow. Yeah, all of that with the Bin Laden shit stinks. So you have to resign from certain types of companies so your influence as a government official doesn't impact or there's no biases or prejudices therefore. Yeah, we kind of what stinks about that, Rachel, is that uh Trump got around that. Remember when he got into office, he had to, and he just turned all of that shit over to his son and his daughter. So he was we all know that Trump was still in control of all of that, um, and he wasn't losing no money on that. He was still running that. Yeah, it's all about that money. But he oh, which comes says he owned his wife like slaves. Well, that's the Islam religion. They can have several wives, and
Yeah,
all
that
the
nepotism shouldn't have been allowed, actually.
no, no. And Rachel brought up a good thing, says you have to resign from certain companies. And I was saying, like, Trump, he knew that, but he turned all of his companies over to his daughter and his son controlling. And so, how hard is that to just, daddy still calling the shots and all of that, but he's
Right.
just,
Didn't they end up like calling it like an organization too? So that if you don't call it a corporation and you call it an organization, it's, like,
oh, it can be.
I
You
don't,
can still hold. I wouldn't doubt it. But a lot of Trump stuff was losing money anyway. And he still hasn't turned over any of his freaking financial reports, and nobody's saying shit about that now. Remember all his taxes and shit? Nobody
hey,
ever
Trump.
found out about Trump's taxes.
Yeah, I know. It's pretty ridiculous. I mean, the amount of rich people that don't pay their taxes and know how these tax shelters, all kinds of shit that, because they have financial advisors, they have this, they have that. It's so incredible to me that I can't even imagine that, the conflict of interest between these things is
Well, they say
amazing. And
Elon Musk pays very little. And
does he really?
if you're making the argument that they're creating jobs, if there's some way, well, say, and I'd be willing to give somebody a billionaire a tax break if every year you could prove that hiring you know you were hiring 10,000, 30,000 new people per year. But we know that's not the case you know
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, they were he's like a Elon Musk is what is it, a centralaire or whatever it is, after
yeah,
billionaire,
yeah.
where you've got trillions. It's like, okay, and they're giving him contract, so it's like in a few months he'll make the first citizen space, into to the moon or something.
Oh, yeah, yeah, going out into the yeah.
Yeah, and we're paying him to do that.
Yeah,
We're
he's
paying
simply,
his company.
yeah, to have fun with his toys. And unless, and that whole space type uh uh program with private citizens and stuff, who is it going to benefit? Obviously they're not NASA or anything, so they're not doing a space exploration that's going to possibly help mankind down the line somehow. Okay, you're just taking motherfuckers for a ride up in the sky real high and then
Yeah,
bringing them
and I don't
down.
understand, why are we giving them contracts to do that?
Yeah,
It's
is that
like,
what's
why are they
happening?
even allowed to do that? Like, where do they get off? I mean, this is our world too. Just because they're, rich enough to fucking do that doesn't mean they should be able to pollute you know,
Oh, you mean
the
like
moon.
Braniff and them guys that have that? Well, there's three
Yeah.
guys. There's three guys, and I don't know if you saw in 60 Minutes last Sunday. Now they got people that want to do this. Get back. It is supersonic travel. Okay, that's going to be limited to number one. You got to deal with the sonic boom again. So you're going to have environmental issues. And number two, if who's going to be able to ride on those, at $2,000 and $3,000 a ticket,
I'm
So
sure it's more than that.
yeah, who's it gonna benefit? Yeah. If it takes to build one of those supersonic transport personal planes, I mean, probably only seating 20 people, 30 people. That's $300 million for one plane. That's
Well, in the meantime, we got people living in tent cities.
yeah. Jeez.
Yeah, living in tent cities.
Yeah, all that Braniff and Elon Musk with those little personal, and I'm sure that's 2 and 3 thousand. No, that's more than that per ride.
Yeah, there's
Hundred.
like that Jeff Bezos and Richard Branson.
Yeah. Who is that benefiting?
Just
I don't.
them.
I mean, is it really that cool to ride up in what do they call that? The first atmosphere. Some shit you can go into a movie theater and probably get the same fucking effect as that.
I don't even know that. How would we even know if it was real anyway? Nowadays, I mean, this guy talks about artificial intelligence and everything is pretty much fake. And so how would we even know if this guy isn't pulling one over us?
Oh, go
I
just
can't
go
even
up.
understand, where did this fucking guy come from, Elon Musk? He just pops up and he's a fucking billionaire and trillionaire now. I mean, these people are, it's incredible to me that their 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 fucking mindset doesn't even think about the people who are poor and living in fucking tents and can't eat, and just $1 million out of their fucking trillions
Yeah.
would probably, help people.
Rachel says the monies of the tickets theoretically funds future endeavors as far as science and technology and develop for more people to go out into space. For what though? I
For
mean,
what? Yeah.
are the science, does it have are they exploring effects on the body? Are we gonna suddenly have colonies out in space? Well, that's still 100 years off in as far as complete development. I mean, you can do a space station and stuff, but that shit is so goddamn expensive.
It's
So
ridiculous. Oh, we can't fucking fly on an airline if we don't have COVID vaccination, but we can go to space.
now if they say, well, we're going to space to see what body effects and it's gonna cure all these medical ills, and this research is gonna help in getting rid of whatever prostate cancer or something. Well, great, fine, let's do that. But not if it's just, well, we want to see what the effect of gravity has on the body. Well, fuck, ain't nobody going out to space to figure that shit out, you
Didn't they
know?
do that already? Affect gravity as on the body?
Yeah. I
Why
mean,
the fuck do I care if there's, I really don't. I don't care what's out in space.
no. I mean, and even if they were to develop a colony where you could live out in space, we all know that your average Joe Blow from Main Street is not going to be out there. He's got the average working class wage of $25 an hour. He's not going nowhere.
They're probably looking to see what kind of fucking minerals and things they can mine from there. And then they're probably
Or
going to ship
or
fucking people
probably
up there to work.
or it's probably related to surveillance or something. That's the only thing I could see.
Yeah, and then they're probably going to fucking ship people up there, fucking poor people, and make them work.
for prison and space prison.
Yeah, yeah, labor camps. I mean, because now even the prisons are privatized.
yeah, they are. A
That's
lot of them are,
disgusting.
and a lot of them that are privatized prisons are making big money. A lot of big
It's
money.
disgusting. Those are like labor camps, basically.
Yeah, but
Right?
they're able to charge. I think that those private prisons are still subsidized by the state because states will say, well, we don't have any more beds available. We don't have any more. We're overcrowded. So we'll send you to out of state bed or whatever that's a private prison, and they're having the state is having to subsidize that little private prison. Plus, those guys are
Yeah,
making
the tax people are paying for it while the private companies are getting rich from it.
yeah, they are. They are. And I
It's
can't
fucking
blame them.
ridiculous.
Fuck.
Can't blame them. Is that what you said?
Yeah, for making money on. I mean, if you can do that, I mean that's capitalism for you.
Yeah, but
It's
it's
sure
not
not.
good.
It's sure not about rehabbing them. Because
No, they're not rehabbing them, and they're not. I just, it makes me wonder, like, what will qualify as a crime eventually, like that they'll just lock person up for, you know, anything so that they can get free labor. Eventually, it's going to be like the gulag,
my whole
you
thing
know.
is why don't they redirect the energies of non-violent inmates to our infrastructure. Take a bunch of guys out there who are on, in there for marijuana or for some bullshit, uh, a third degree robbery or something, and take them guys and build some bridges and some roads and put them into infrastructure. You ain't got to pay them shit because we're already paying for them to have 3 meals and some clothes and shit like that.
It just really kills me too, like somebody like Jeffrey Dahmer, who, thankfully got, killed in prison. I'm sorry to say it. But,
Yeah.
they didn't give him the death penalty. Uh, but what's the point of having him in jail? I mean, he's not going to come out. He doesn't do society any good. And we would have just been paying for him. I get it. Oh, the death penalty, some states don't have it. Yeah, but I mean, fucking, that's taxpayers' money.
Yeah. We're just paying for him to, his 3 meals a day and his
Yeah,
cot,
three hots and a cot.
and he's using electricity up, and we're having to pay for his water to keep his ass clean for showers and all of that. So
Yeah,
put his ass to work in something besides
just
the
kill
kitchen,
him.
you know.
The kitchen. Who wants fucking Jeff Dahmer working in the kitchen? It already freaks me out that he worked in a fucking chocolate factory.
If there's one place we don't need Jeffrey Dahmer working, it's in the kitchen.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, God knows what he was putting in those chocolates. It's just so shocking to me that, the things that, okay, yeah, Jeffrey Dahmer, that was very criminal. But the police that fucking returned that 14-year-old to his death
Yeah.
is,
Yeah, I wonder where did this family get some type of compensation for that? Oh God,
no, they got minimal. They got a couple of 100,000,
that's
and
it.
that was,
Fuck.
yeah, just a couple of 100,000. They were a Laotian family,
Yeah.
and yeah, and fucking those cops, if they would have just ran Jeffrey Dahmer's name, they would have seen that he was on probation for the child molestation of the kid's older brother, the
Okay.
same guy,
Where was that? Was that Milwaukee or something?
Milwaukee, yeah. And those cops rose through the ranks.
Wow.
They got
Got
a good
promoted
pinch.
and shit. The
Huh?
ones that turned in the boy, they got promoted, or the ones that finally full. Remember, the last guy was a black guy. He went by his. He says he wasn't gay, but he met Jeffrey Dahmer and didn't know him, and he says, well, he invited me back to the place for a beer or something, and he.
Yeah, that guy Tracy. He ended up killing somebody too,
Oh,
because
did he?
he
He
ended
was
up.
a criminal too.
Wait, he eventually did kill somebody because I don't think he got the help that he needed. I mean, after being, with Jeffrey Dahmer there, I mean, He ended up like a homeless drug addict, and then he ended up throwing another homeless guy off a bridge.
Oh shit! Fuck.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't even know if he's still alive, actually. Um, I just feel like the whole thing is, here's fucking Jeffrey Dahmer. He'd been killing since the time he was like shortly. Yes, he did exactly throwback. He used to put his food into the shape of body parts and cover it with ketchup. And the other
Say
inmate
that
that
again. Say
the
that
inmate
again,
that
because you
killed
cut out.
Jeffrey Dahmer, what
Yeah.
he goes, he was just a weird guy. He said, like during, time to eat, he would put his food into shapes of body parts and cover them with ketchup. And he just couldn't take it anymore.
Wow.
The guy that killed him. Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
good. That guy should have been fucking killed when he was fucking, yeah, picking up fucking killing animals. I mean, the guy was a wacko. He was
Wow.
killing animals. I mean, it's so crazy to me that initially when look at that Edmund Kemper. Guy is like, 6'7" or something. They call him a genius. And, that he's just a gentle giant. That's how the cops refer to him. And I mean, the guy killed like 8 people in California, including his mother. He beheaded her. And that
Oh,
poor
fuck.
woman, he killed his maternal grandparents when he was 15. When he was younger, he used to, like he had killed the family cat and paraded its head around on a stick to the sisters.
Oh,
And the
Jesus.
mother was scared to death of him. I mean, the guy was just growing bigger and bigger every day. And fucking, the family was pretty much scared to death of him. So at 15, he killed his maternal grandparents just to see how it would feel. So they put him into juvie. And when it was time for him to get out, then his mother appealed to the court, please don't let him out. He's going to come here. He's going to come to me. And they still let him out. And then he went to police academy, believe it or not, to be a police officer, which is shocking to me. Why would they entertain letting a murderer become a police officer?
Fuck. Fuck. Jeez.
The only reason why he didn't get to become a police officer is because he was too big, not because he was a murderer. And then he ended up like, he was just fucking killing people left and right and hanging out at the local cop bar. So, he knew basically everything. Yeah.
Jeez.
And then
Jeez.
he fucking beheaded his mother and then called the cop that was, you know, trying to bust the case and said, come get me. I'm sitting here. My mother's fucking on a plate. Yeah.
He
Fucking
beheaded her,
disgusting.
son. Jesus Christ.
Shit's disgusting. I mean, and he was smart. He was very smart. I was watching a documentary today too about a 20-year-old black kid who was killing, black girls, and he came from a good family, and two of his relatives, including his father, were detectives with the police department,
Man.
and he was a serial killer.
Yeah, a lot of that, or more of that goes on than you think about. And a lot of like cops and detectives, their kids, go awry,
Well,
and
look at that Golden State Killer. He was a cop,
yeah, it's
and it
kind
took
of
years.
it's kind of like the preacher's kid, who's we grew up as always the preachers, the pastor's kids were always the ones that were doing the dirt.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. What the hell was it? One was the pastors that, yeah, and yeah, I mean, it was just like incredible to me that they grow up in these
or
circumstances
or
where,
the doctor or the pharmacist kid in the neighborhood is the one that's always got all the dope, just
well,
always.
that's always how it was too. Was the Catholic school kids were the ones that were actually the biggest bullies.
Oh,
you
we're in
know?
trouble school. Yeah, I bet. I
Yeah,
know.
they were the biggest bullies. I remember watching a freaking carload of them get out and beat my friends with fucking golf clubs just out of the blue.
Oh no, are you kidding me?
No, they just rode
Wow.
up and fucking stopped the car and started fucking smashing my friends Corey and Jimmy with golf clubs. You know, we were just standing there on the kids' front lawn, just out of the blue. It's like, what the fuck? I mean, it was a constant. It's just, I think it's because they're raised in such a lifestyle that is so structured, maybe, that they feel they have to test the boundaries or something.
Yeah, or just feel like, they're entitled to do that somehow. They're exempt
I,
from
yeah, maybe they just felt like they get away with it or something. I mean, but the thing was a lot of these, like one of the girls, she was a college student, and then there was, like a couple of the cases. I'm just thinking to myself, why the fuck would you let a guy wearing a ski mask into your car? I mean, the lady, like, she sets up a date. She was like kind of on one of those websites, whatever. Sets
Yeah,
up the date with the kid. He's 20, and fucking goes, and the guy's wearing a fucking ski mask, and she lets him into her car. I
shit.
mean, he's wearing a fucking ski mask. Don't let him in, you know? And there was another one where the girl, she was a college girl, and then she was on one of those website dating things, and the guy goes, would you like to make some money? And she's like, no, I'm not into those credit card scams or something. And he's like, well, no, would you like to make some money? It's not anything like that. And she said, how much money? He goes, how much do you want? She says, $500. He goes, all right, will you take $500 to spend the night with me? She agrees and goes, and of course she ends up dead. I mean, me, I just think that, and you're playing with fire, like you said, like if you got to bring if you go somewhere, right, to use our common sense, but that's the thing that you think that you would say, stranger danger,
And you know what? That's I was thinking that's the untold truth about that kid who went, who showed up, what's his name?
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Rittenhouse. That type of atmosphere turned him on. He's probably one of those kids that would have did like a Columbine shooting also. And you know, it shows him when he was breaking down crying and shit. And I'm thinking that's all a fucking. How could you have like the nerve or half-ass courage to take a gun into and shoot and kill a couple people, but then you get into court and you cry like a little bitch, like a little baby.
And say you were there to support them while you're killing the supporters.
He's got issues, and
And he's out on
he
the street.
he's one of those guys like Timothy McVeigh, who he read the Turner Diaries. Turner Diaries. I don't know if you're familiar with have to do with uh the taking over the government and shit like that. He's one of those kids.
But isn't it disturbing to know that maybe at the next protest, if there is one, or any kind of gathering, that he doesn't like the people, he could show up again and do it again.
Well, or even more so, a copycat. Well, shit. Kyle Rittenhouse got away with it. I'm gonna show up at a rally uh and incite something and then claim self defense. Oh yeah, I believe it. I believe. Well, it's just like all the school shootings are. They're just kind of copycats. But yeah, I would. It wouldn't surprise me if it happens again. It really wouldn't
It's so
surprise me.
crazy to me. I think a lot of it really, like when even those Columbine that you're saying, they were, what was it they thought, was that natural born killers or something? And were inspired by, that kind of crap and went in there and did that.
Yeah, yeah,
I just can't imagine that they need to, I'm sorry, I believe that censorship isn't a bad thing. I think that they should censor, um, you know, violence like that, um, glamorizing it and everything. I mean, it's crazy.
yeah, and that's a problem I have with this younger generation and rap music, and it's got nothing to do with and if somebody else was looking out in from the outside who wasn't like from the inner city and stuff, I wouldn't have any problem with their analysis of what they see. When you're talking about often somebody just like you were saying about the what you call in his lyrics he had something about crackers or something often the crack. Well, that shit's been
Yeah,
going on.
crackers seen
Yeah,
as a noose or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
that shit's been going on in rap music here lately, strong for a long time. I mean, the guys like Nelly and stuff didn't say that shit. Guys like Ludacris and shit, they're not into that shit. But this younger generation, everything is about a beef, handling a beef, and peeling somebody's lid back and dealing with ops. Ops are like, the ops are opposites. They're like your enemy, So
yeah, there was a song like telling how to do home invasions, even. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah. So it's that type, and not only is it in like music, like in rap music, but it's in some of these movies out here too that are becoming just really highly involved in that type of thinking. So it's just it's like breaking the movie Breaking Bad was kind of in some way, even though I like the Breaking
I
Bad.
like that series, Breaking Bad. I
Yeah,
thought
but
that's pretty good.
there was a
Catherine
lot
says,
of
dating, have you not
unbelievable
seen the videos about what happened?
huh? What's that?
Catherine said, did you see the videos about what happened with the Kyle Rittenhouse?
Oh, what do you mean? Have you seen the videos about what happened? What do you mean the videos of the actual shooting or what? Uh, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, I saw the shooting. I mean, the videos of it. Yeah, but
I mean, I don't think that it should have been just completely excused. And
but
then
he should have got convicted on the charge. What was the second degree charge? Um, of inciting. What was the um I forgot what they called it, the other charge,
like
but he
inciting
should.
violence or something.
God, what was it? It was layout. Yeah, it was like he incite. I'll have to look it up or something. But there was the murder and charge, and that wasn't gonna fly. And it was the self defense wasn't gonna. Well, that's what he won on actually with self defense. But there was a second lesser charge that had to do with carrying the gun or something. Okay,
And
that
they
he
still didn't even get him on that either.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if you can look that up real quick. What he got, or I can maybe look it up real quick.
Yeah, you got two devices. When I look it up, I have to go out, come back in. Yeah, I mean, and Rachel said schools were targeted because they mandate gun-free zones. So absolutely real resistance taking over the school. Yeah, but if they're gun-free zones, I mean, these fuckers walk in like with guns, and so I just, why don't they have like metal detectors at the core or something?
Let me see. Okay, it was. Let me see.
Catherine, what's your view on those videos?
Oh, first degree recklessly endangering safety, not guilty. How can you show up at a rally, okay, with a gun, okay, and because nobody was calling it. It must have. What you just mentioned something about a weapons free zone or something. I don't know what the carrying laws are in Minnesota. I mean, or wherever he was at. Okay, but I know that he obtained the gun legally. Somebody bought the gun for him, a cousin or a friend
No,
or
I
something.
think he bought them himself or his mother or something. Like, you can just go to Walmart and buy them.
Okay, he must have didn't have to have a permit. Okay, so and this is what bothers me too, is that he was walking around unchecked, freely walking around. I mean, he came there for like warfare because he had on a not a vest, but he had on like a waist belt that that had that was for military style shit. Okay, and
Yeah, like
he
camo and
obviously
stuff.
walking around openly. Why wasn't he checked by? Because there were obviously law enforcement there. So why wasn't he checked? But to say that he's not recklessly endangering safety, give me a break.
Didn't he? Did he have any priors, that kid?
No, I don't think he did. And if he did, they were juvenile. But the way he broke down on the stand, he's got some. I think he's got some emotional issues. I mean, he talked pretty intelligently to Tucker Carlson. Okay, but he's got some. He's one of those kids. I think that was probably a loner or something, and sits in his room. And you don't know what's going. He's probably Vern Vision when Vern was a kid. I mean, he's probably on that tip.
They
Probably.
have those fucking video games too, man, that they have nowadays are just
Oh
so
yeah, those
violent.
those those are just as bad or as responsible as bad rap music is. You
Oh
know,
my god, they're horrible. That and one of those grand larcenies, like the or Grand Theft
Grand
Auto,
Theft Auto.
like number
Yeah, and Grand
5
Theft
or
Auto is
something.
almost tame compared to I think some shit I don't really follow the PlayStation and I was never into that and Xbox and
Me
shit.
neither. They
I'm pretty.
simulate though an actual blowjob,
Oh, are
and
you
the guy's
kidding?
got the back of her head and fucking, and then he throws her out of the car naked. I mean, those are the
What?
kind of things they get points for. My daughter
What?
didn't
Are you
even know they were
serious?
doing that in it.
No,
Yeah,
they don't have those, do they? Are you serious?
yeah, yeah. Simulating a blowjob.
Jeez, I didn't
Or,
know
I
that.
mean, I can't believe that people buy their kids those things and let them play it. I can't believe they sell it. I think that that is just,
Oh,
so there's a problem. There's a problem with the fact that money takes precedence over everything,
yeah.
basically.
And so yeah, and you can get them where it's like war games now, and
Oh, they're awful.
you're actually in Iraq and shit like that, and you're making 10,000 rounds a game per level. That's just wow.
Like that Call of Duty, it was,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
just
that's what
sitting
it was
there,
called.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what it
shooting
was
fucking
called.
in, the people and getting points for it and shit. And that got everybody, all those kids that went over there to fight in the war all fired up. They probably felt like it was just like a video game, but it isn't.
Yeah. Rachel,
Uh,
what's FPS gamers? Is that an online group thing or something?
I have no clue. I don't, my daughter didn't
Is
have
all
that.
this sneaker worm where you go into like a strip club? Oh shit! I thought Rachel was the good
Uh,
Christian girl, big Southern Christian girl.
I know, right? Catherine didn't tell us what she means by the videos that she was talking about. said. You see the videos.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, a throwback. I did. I read about that big explosion in Flint where and Debbie where Cray Cray and she put a video or something up of it. You could hear it in the background or something like that.
what was the explosion from?
Just some house exploded. I don't know if it was a gas leak or what the fuck it was going on with it.
Really? That's weird.
Yeah.
Did anybody die?
I don't know.
Hmm. That's fucking weird. Did you ever check out about what you were saying about the that condos in Florida that went into the sinkhole?
Oh yeah, no, and I never knew what they because remember they were pulling bodies out for a while, and then they imploded the other condo that was next door to it because they were afraid that it may collapse, and I just never knew because remember they recovered like there were like 75 unaccounted bodies or something, 100 and something, but
Really? I didn't know there was that much.
and they got it down to like where they still had 45 or 50 that were unaccounted for, and I never heard any more from that. And that's when they imploded the other one. So that means that if there were
He was kidding
anybody,
around, Rachel.
huh?
I said that you were kidding around.
Oh, he was kidding around about the other room or something that had the strip club.
Yeah, I don't know what she's talking about the strip club, but she's saying she's just kidding around. Jeez. Yeah, I am. I thought that that guy who owned that condo was initially like that building was deemed unsafe prior to that, and he still didn't do anything about it or anything.
Yeah, he had a bunch of violations, or the health, not the health department, but the
The
building.
building inspector,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and I wonder, did he have to face any kind of charges? Can't you look it up?
I don't know. Let me see. Well, I know that that's why it's important that we pass that infrastructure. Because there's so many uh, bridges that are bad. There's so many buildings that are, and it wasn't the only building in that area that was, that were past their violation things. They were still getting, extensions and stuff on them. So,
Look at that house that where that guy in his bedroom went into a sinkhole in Florida.
uh,
Remember that?
jeez, yeah,
And they
yeah, he
never
died. Did he
fucking,
die?
yeah, he died. They never found his body.
Okay.
Just went right into the sinkhole. It makes me wonder, like, when they build on these properties, do they actually know that there's a possibility of that, and they still just build on it anyway?
Uh-huh.
Especially like Florida, isn't that like all swamp and stuff under it? Throwback says a little girl died and her father
Oh, is that right?
in the Flint one. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I can't get over fucking that shit. I mean, and they don't. What is a gas explosion? That's horrible. My friend fucking he had just moved into a trailer, and it was like the second night he was there, and the thing exploded. He lived, but man, he was burnt badly.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Badly. And he just, what happened too is when they put that gauze on you, the gauze, the print of the gauze, the material is
Uh-huh.
like still on his skin.
Wow.
He is
Jeez.
totally fucked up,
Yeah,
man.
those skin grafts are just a monster. They're saying in 2001 and in 2015, uh, they filed lawsuits, some of the residents, about the concrete contractors, and there were alleged cracks in the building's outer skin and stuff. And then let's see. They're not saying really what happened to. I'll just have to read a little further in a minute.
That's usually what they do. They don't put the stories about afterwards, so you can't find, you know.
And you know what? They probably, if you try to, if you try to sue, put in a lawsuit, they probably just bounce that back to, around, well, we can't be held responsible because the general contractor, then the general contractor will go to the building manufacturers who gave sold them the cement or something, and well, see this bad cement, we applied it properly, but it's bad cement. Then the cement guy will go to somebody, it's just, and it'll be tied up in legal.
Yeah, and
You
if you
know,
don't have the money to keep paying for an attorney, then basically,
yeah, your shit.
you
That's
know,
that. There it is. There's your lovely legal system again.
yeah, it's the money. It's all about money. If you don't have the money to, like a lot of those cases where somebody's suing somebody that's a big company, the person doesn't have the money to pay an attorney for it. So you got to join those civil action suits, and then you end up with a very minimal amount while the attorney gets a huge amount.
Yeah, and they
And it's
really
like,
need to put, they talk about in law about the due process within a timely fashion. Well, I've got a nephew who's well, nephew in law who shot and killed somebody 3 years ago, and he's still in the county jail. He hasn't even gone to a trial yet. It's shit like that. Our legal system is just fucking backed up with a
and that's
batch of
part of your civil rights is the right to a speedy trial.
yeah, that's a joke.
But isn't that, I
That's a joke.
mean, insane?
How is it that he, in the local level there in Seattle, is 3 years sitting in jail, and the Arbery thing came to fruition in a year's time, or it's been sooner, So I just don't get that shit with the legal system. How things take so freaking long.
I don't understand it either, and how they can violate the Constitution as well. Like, I mean, there's been so many cases where people, the police have not rendered, what does it say? They have to give emergency service, like to somebody immediately, where they don't because they want the person to die because they don't want them to come out with the real story.
Yeah.
And I did one where the guy, he was just some young kid, 21 years old, living in California on his motorcycle, and gets pulled over by, the California Highway Patrol, like on the motorcycles. And he was on a motorcycle, so he pulls over, and witnesses say they weren't really sure why the cop pulled him over. He was a Hispanic kid, and the cop was white. And then the cop starts shooting at him. And so the kid, of course, can't get away on his motorcycle because he's shot. And so he kind of carjacks this Bronco, but not in a violent manner. He just needs to get to safety because this cop is shooting at him. So he takes this guy's Bronco and goes to his house where his family was and gets inside, and then immediately like the SWAT team and all the cops are there, and they make the family leave, and they send in one of those like robots that has a camera on
Oh
it
yeah.
so that they could video cam the guy. And for 8 hours, the video cam finally finds the kid in the back bedroom, but he's still alive, but he's bleeding out. And for 8 hours, they watched this kid bleed out
Jesus Christ.
and die. He died. And so they didn't give him any kind of medical attention or anything. And none of those cops got in trouble for it.
Nobody got reprimanded. Fuck.
None of them. None of them did. And even the guy whose Bronco got stolen was like the witnesses didn't even know why the guy. I mean, these people, they could have the one where they had shot a 6-year-old boy in Louisiana, right? Weeks
Hmm.
before, one of those cops had hit on the guy's wife and showed up at their house. And yeah,
It's
yeah, and one
just
of those guys is still out.
all kind of and see, and that's what's crazy and funny about it is every cop department's got a ethics unit, that's supposed to govern and check that shit out, and it just that just ends up a joke.
But with the qualified immunity doctrine, at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference because, well, like lately it has been, like you said, in different states, been being superseded, but for a very long time, a very long time, those cops, they knew that basically they could do whatever they wanted and they were protected even off duty because according to that law, it was said, well, even off duty, they're still supposed to act like, they're upholding the law.
Yeah.
And so they were getting
Qualified
away with fucking everything.
Qualified immunity is a defense that law enforcement and other government officials can raise in response to lawsuits seeking monetary damages for alleged civil rights violations. So, is it just limited to what happens regarding lawsuits, or does it have anything to do with governing of behavior, or is
No,
it just
the criminal behavior is covered by them saying, oh, well, we didn't train them that way, so they don't know. And they just keep that up and keep it up. Even like juvenile detention corrections officers, that that there's like an abundance of rape. There's a there's a timeline on how long these children have to report that happening. It's like 6 months, and charges have to. It's 6 months for it to be reported, 2 years for the charges to be brought up. So if you're 11 years old in some juvie being molested by some 6 foot tall corrections officer that's telling you, you know, you can't, you're not going to see your family again if you do this or anything. You're scared to death, and you might be thinking in your head, when I get out, I'll get justice. I'll go to but no, the filing deadline has exceeded. That's why, like the Boy Scouts of America, they're not covered under the qualified immunity. They're not government officials, so people can bring up cases of molestation, 20 years later. But for children that are in those juvies, um, they have no recourse.
They say it goes the origin stretch way back to 1871 when it was created,
The
and it's
qualifying immunity. I thought it
yeah,
was created in the '60s because of the civil rights. The they made it look like it was going to protect police because of the rioting that was going on with the civil rights unrest, and actually though it has worked against the population as a whole.
and then they say it was around the Civil War that it was used, but then they say it was picked back up as the civil rights movement picked back up in 1950s. Litigators began to invoke section blah blah blah. Or Supreme Court is behind it and all that shit. So I don't know how if that's state Supreme Courts or what, because it's got eliminated in New Mexico, Connecticut, and Colorado. So I guess it's not a federal Supreme Court, like the high Supreme Court. I guess it's just state.
Well, the thing is, though, is that each state, yeah, can try them, but if they bring it to the federal level, then that's where it usually gets overturned. Their conviction is at the federal level because some of those, the judges at that level, there was a lot of Democratic judges and 3 Republican judges that were for repealing the qualified immunity doctrine, but it's just such a continuous fight because when it gets that level, it's all about they don't want to set a precedent. They don't want to actually enforce people's civil rights.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, they really don't, because it happens all the time. Like you said, your nephew sitting in jail. I thought people were innocent until proven guilty. Well, so say he gets, his trial and then gets proven innocent. Well, hey, but does that change the fact that he sat in jail for 3 years and God knows what's happened to him and how his life was destroyed and his reputation was destroyed? I mean, you lose everything after you're sitting in jail waiting for a trial. So even if you turn out innocent, what happens to you in jail, God knows.
Yeah, and half these guys sitting in jail, and then they deduct that, so they do that easy time. Some of them in a county jail, and then they go up to prison, up to the big house, and instead of having a 10-year sentence, they've spent 5 of it down at the lowercase jail and only have to spend 5 up. So it's crazy. Well, hey,
Yeah, they do that.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna get off here and get me
Yeah,
some
me
sleep.
too. So I thank you
Uh,
so much, Day Day. I appreciate you, and I'm sorry for our argument, and I
well,
forgive you.
it's
So I'm
water.
like, and I forgive
It's, it's water under the bridge now. So, all right,
yeah,
Throwback and Rachel Reed, you guys have
Rachel,
fun,
Reed,
and
Catherine,
we'll have
everybody
more
else.
on
Yeah.
here. So,
Peace, love,
I'll
and
talk.
tacos, everyone. Thank you all for being here.
Okay, peace, love, and tacos. Bye bye.
Bye bye.